1970s, which is kind of groovy. I'm going to use a 70s word,
But it's
but
Leonard Nimoy too, though.
I use the word groovy, so I don't know. Yeah,
so I'm dating myself a little bit, but
that's
That's okay. You and me both.
so so I would watch these shows every week, and it was something different. The Bermuda Triangle. It was pyramid power, UFOs, Bigfoot, missing persons, all of this stuff. And I just became really intrigued, by even more so. And in 1978, CBS came out with a television series called Project UFO, which was
I remember. It was great.
it's like let's hop in the Wayback Machine here and
I feel
Where
like
we
I'm
going?
missing.
Oh my
I feel
God.
like I'm missing out on some club.
I used to sit and watch the skies after
Oh.
that show.
Oh, yeah, I
Sunday
mean-
night.
Oh wow.
yeah, we did. We would watch the show, and my
True.
friends and I would talk about it, and it's like, oh, did you go out after the show, and did you see anything? And it's like, it's Metro Atlanta. We saw a bunch of light pollution, but it was kind of it was kind of fun to to imagine and wonder what this was like. These highly stylized renditions of Project Blue Book investigations. What
Yeah.
was the cause of them, and we just discussed this stuff. Well, fast forward, I graduated high school in 1983, and I attended the University of West Georgia. And I don't know if you're familiar with the psychology department there at the University of West Georgia, but it had a gentleman on staff by the name of William Roll, the very famous parapsychologist, was one of the faculty members. And I had an opportunity to study under Dr. Roll. And it was a psychology department that focused on humanistic and transpersonal type psychology. So it was very experiential. So I was exposed to this stuff, and was really interested in it, and had some really neat experiences, and got to meet some very unique and interesting people. And like so many people, here came life, screaming down the tracks like some sort of cruel freight train.
Mhm.
And I was branched as a Army intel officer in the U.S. Army Reserves. Went off to intel school, got out, had to get a job. My regular job was as a civilian DoD security specialist, and so I, did the 9 to 5 working for the man kind of thing, over and over and over. And in 2008, a local paranormal group, the Oxford Paranormal Society, was looking for a investigator, and I applied and was able to get on with that organization. And the founders decided to take their interest elsewhere and approached me, and they said, hey, how would you like a paranormal investigation group of your own? We will give you this organization, which has been around since 2006. So I became the director of the Oxford Paranormal Society, and I don't know how it is, in your neck of the woods, in your area of operations and interest, but in the mid 2000s, and let me back up there, the mid 2010s, paranormal cases really started to subside. They really started to wane a bit. So we decided to expand our interest out into the out of doors, get people out of their comfort zone. And we started investigating the folklore of a haunted road. And that led into our discovery of the Meadow and all the subsequent research and investigations we've done since.
Wow, that's quite a journey. But I do agree with you with the mid 2010s, where I think traditional investigating definitely did change. I geared myself to more malevolent sort of working one-on-one with people, so that was sort of always ongoing, getting into psychokinesis and
Right.
a little bit of parapsychology and stuff. So there's always somebody out there that thinks they got something going on that maybe not necessarily what they think it is. So, always a lot of fun. But it wasn't until later years where I think my interest in cryptozoology and, UFOs, things like that, came along. I think those of us in the field do eventually branch out that way, don't we?
I think we have to. It's really, really strange you should mention that, because I am primarily a paranormal researcher. That's kind of my, my thing.
Right.
And over the years, I've had a chance to interact with ufologists, cryptid researchers. I have a pretty well-known cryptid researcher in ASOG, and the more I start to talk to people, they're saying, when we were out, doing cryptid research, we had, you know, uh, something dark and shadowy follow us around, or we saw orbs. And I'm like, well, that's like paranormal stuff. Or they'll say,
Mm,
we saw lights in the sky, or we saw, luminescent beings while we were out. And it's like, well, that's more ufology. And the
yeah.
more I peel this onion back, and the more I talk to people and experience things for myself, I have to think they're related somehow. Now, how? I really don't know. There's some really neat theories out there. One of them going all the way back to Brad Steiger. John
Yeah.
Keel had a lot of theories about this. So, I think anybody that's really serious about this and is honest with themselves and humble will find themselves at least sticking their toe in some alternative ponds of different disciplines.
I agree with you. I find in some of or many of the cases that I've worked, I think at least 50% had a connection to extraterrestrials or UFOs.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it's a portal thing. Maybe,
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
found it was sort of intriguing. I'm like, what do they all use the same portals? Like, what is it?
Well,
But that
that's
was my introduction, right?
oh, absolutely. And when in our investigations of the meadow, we've had orbs, we've had uh, beings, that have shown up on our FLIR. We've had
Mm,
mysterious cubes, like a box. Now
wow.
you go back in ufology, and you
Mm,
have the boxes or cubes that were sighted at Skinwalker Ranch. You have the Brazil sightings of something they called chupa chupas, which were flying boxes or cubes, which shot out beams and injured people. I had a chance in
Wow.
June to meet Katie Grabowski, who actually lived at the famous Colorado ranch that preceded Skinwalker Ranch that had cubes and boxes. As recently as this season on the TV show, this Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, they saw a cube or a box or rectangle. So here
yeah.
we are seeing, this same thing. And, you talked about, different perspectives. A ufologist would say, well, that's a UFO. That's a craft. A paranormal researcher might say that's a portal, which, I think possibly that's what this was.
Really?
A cryptid researcher would just say, what the hell? I don't know what's going on. Uh,
We know what the hell that is. I know.
it's not furry and walking around on 2 feet, so I don't have a clue. But it's
Right.
it's all a matter of perspective.
Right. No, I agree with you. I agree
Hmm.
with you.
Does anything follow these visions of these UFO? Chupa Chupa to me is a lollipop. I'm serious. Okay,
Yeah,
Chupa Chupa
Uh,
Chups. It's a lollipop. My daughter loved her whole life. It's the first time I've heard that term. And my daughter's 23. She's been eating them for 20 years. But
20
oh,
years, yeah.
yeah. Did
Mm.
anything follow with those visions when they saw these cubes of light? Did they have any other paranormal activity or
oh,
UFO activity?
absolutely. I had a chance
Okay.
to talk to Ryan Skinner, has done a tremendous amount of research at Skinwalker Ranch, and
Mm.
we've had some experiences here recently ourselves. And I said, Ryan, did stuff ever follow you home? And he says, absolutely. And we are now starting to see that with some of our experiences as recently as last month, with some of this phenomena actually following people, way away from the epicenter of high strangeness that we've been dealing with.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let me rephrase that. Did anything else follow while they've seen these? Not follow them home, but
Oh,
in
I
that
got it.
interaction, did anything
Oh,
else happen?
yeah,
You know,
tons of
to
stuff.
yeah, to
Yes,
be able to understand why that cube was there,
Mm.
yeah. Actually, on that particular evening when we saw the cube at our particular location, we had beings that we saw on our FLIR. We heard disembodied voices.
Mm.
We actually dispatched a team to where the cube materialized and was detected by our FLIR equipment, and the team members disappeared, poof, out of
Wow.
existence. And we
Okay.
have this on film.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
and and you go back to somewhere like Skinwalker Ranch. There's a myriad of strange things. They've had reports of creatures coming out of portals or dimensional rifts
Yeah.
or whatever. So
When
yeah,
you
this
first answered about things following him back from Skinwalker Ranch, I'm like, I don't think I'd want anything from Skinwalker Ranch following me back. It's just it's a crazy place, you know.
yeah,
There are
it
places like
is.
that on the planet, and it makes you wonder, how did they get that way? You know, you've got your own triangle, you've got your own, I mean, cryptids galore. You've got all these crazy UFOs, but then there's other like magnetic anomalies, and like it's just a mix of everything. How does a place get like that?
It's
Before you answer that, can I
sure.
just, sorry, because I'm seeing these comments come up like crazy on
Okay.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you're commenting on Facebook and you would like us to read these comments out loud, please join us in the YouTube chat room. You may have missed that at the beginning on YouTube, so that I can let you know if I can put that up or not and when I am going to do that. I have to interact with you that way. I'm not ignoring you. They're just flying by on the computer screen when they're on
Yeah, we have
Facebook,
8 different chats coming
Yeah,
up from
and
8 different locations.
the only way that I can read questions or comments is if you tag me, Amelia Pisano Productions, on YouTube chat, and then I can forward those questions to Trey.
Otherwise,
Thank
we will
you.
do our best.
Otherwise,
That's all we
yeah,
can do. That's
they're
all we
gonna
can do.
fly by because I keep missing them.
Yeah, there's a lot actually.
Yeah,
Okay, so Trey, sorry.
sorry.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
How does a place go crazy like Skinwalker Ranch? What makes this mixture? It's like a stew of just everything.
You know, we really don't know. You know, I had a chance to talk
Damn it.
to. You know, I know. You know, that's what I.
All right.
You know, that's what
We'll
I.
let it
That's what
go.
yeah, well,
We'll let it go.
yeah, I mean that's an honest question. People say, you know, what's
Yeah.
going on, and I'll say, you know, hell if I know. You know, I'm a guessing like everybody else. Anybody that comes
Right.
up to you and tells you, you know, I have the answer. You
Hmm.
know, you got to look at that with a bit of skepticism because, you know, we're really grasping at straws here. All we're
Mhm.
doing is we're detecting and experiencing the detritus of whatever's going on. You know, we're picking up the shadows, the remnants of maybe what the real experience is.
Right.
And you know, as I talk to other researchers, you know, with strange sites like this, there are certain patterns that you know start to show up. You know, there's a cryptid pattern that seems to be there. You know, be it a
Mhm.
you know a something that looks like a dire wolf or a Sasquatch or something. There seems to be some sort of cryptid nexus. There seems to be some sort of a portal nexus. You know, a portal or a rift or something.
Yeah,
And
big
there's
one.
and of course there's a UFO nexus. You know,
Mhm.
and then also you plug in orbs. You know, and
Right.
orbs have been you know you go all the way back in history. You know, Willow of the Wisp, the Fae. You know, ghost lights, you know, all the way up into the 21st century, where you know you hear people talk about you know paranormal orbs or lights in the
Yeah,
sky,
they
which
tend to
are
be a bit
UFO.
controversial too, though, right? I think this is where people's minds can run away with them. Like you
Oh, yeah,
really have to study orbs to be able to recognize a true orb,
right.
as opposed
Yeah,
to dust, pollen, moisture,
right.
dander, things like that, right?
Yeah, and usually the metric we use is it self-illuminating? You know, is it
Yes.
generating its own light?
Right.
So
Right. I know you make mention of Hoyabatsu Forest. Have you ever been?
I have not. I have not. I would love to. You know,
I've
there's
been.
been some. Oh, have you?
I've done.
Well,
I have.
pray tell.
It's everything you think it is.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, and more. When I went, and maybe because you've been to Skinwalker Ranch, maybe you can fill us in if there's any similarities. It is said to be its own. It has its own Bermuda Triangle. It's named after a shepherd that went missing with probably, you know, a couple of hundred of his flock. And then a 5-year-old girl went missing. She was gone for 5 years, came back after 5 years, still 5 years old, but really not right, not herself, like blank, you know. There's 2 circles. The one main circle that everybody talks about is
Right.
6 entrances in. Nothing really grows there aside from, you know, weeds, things like that, grass. The trees are all bent out of shape. There's no animals like within any there. I mean, I noticed insects. I didn't even so much as see a squirrel, a chipmunk, any little sign of life, birds, nothing like that. And I'm wondering if it's because of this humming or droning sound that runs in the background. It's like a just like that, which
Yeah.
tells me screams portal. I did not know at the time, but it was under a no-fly zone, which is kind of strange because there's an airport not that far from it. But we came to learn that it is, and it was at the time under a no-fly zone. The locals will warn you to be careful up there because there are things up there. People get nauseous. The experiences that we had that night were unbelievable. So it does not disappoint. So is there any similarities there?
Absolutely. Now,
Yay. Okay,
a point of clarification. The site that I wrote the book about is not the Skinwalker Ranch outside of Vernal, Utah. It is in the America Southland. I have been close to Skinwalker Ranch, but not actually on the ranch.
Right.
But I literally was talking to somebody as recently as yesterday who does research on the ranch. So, strangely enough, one of the things we were talking about yesterday was humming or droning. That is a very common thing.
And does the meadow exhibit those same characteristics?
Yes. Somewhat. We have not heard humming, but we hear almost like a mechanical clicking or ticking that we can't. We have tried to put our finger on it. We've tried to.
It almost sounds like grays.
Can I be devil's advocate here?
Please.
Grays.
With the humming, and you keep saying the word droning, that in itself can even be military flying overhead, drones checking on properties and bases.
Not Hoyabatu because it's
not
under it's under no-fly zone.
I'm talking about the American Southlands. I'm not talking about Romania.
Yeah.
That's a tough one because you have so many bases in America. That's all I'm saying. Like there is a way, a different way to look at that as well. It doesn't necessarily mean supernatural. That's
Good
me.
Cop, bad cop.
It's from working in criminal cases. Sorry, it's not anything personal. I've been trained to look at things in all aspects, and that's why I have to say there's no, unless you can prove that there's nothing in the skies. You can't chalk it up to paranormal or ufology. It can very well be anything, especially if there is a base anywhere nearby.
Right.
They will practice their droning skills by sending them all over the place at any time, day or night. So sorry.
No, that's fine. Actually, if you go and look at my my Facebook authors page, there's a photograph of me with a drone in Afghanistan with a Predator. So I get it.
And you would understand what I'm saying because the bases are so close, right?
Absolutely. Now that's a possibility, and you put it out there for what it's worth. You hear a strange sound, you see a strange light. We've seen UAPs, in areas near the meadow. I do go back. I'm also a MUFON field investigator, so I go back and look on Flight 24. My mind just went completely blank. FR 24. Look for all recorded air traffic in the area at that particular time. I look at airports and all of that. So that's an excellent point, and that's part of being a good researcher.
See, Hoyabatu is constant. It's constant. There's no break in like something may be going nearby, or it just seems to be always running in the background.
So there's not like a Doppler effect to it where it's higher pitched, and as it passes you it drops pitch.
No, it's the same all the time. You become so accustomed to it that you're just, after a while, you just don't even notice it. Like you walk in initially and you're just like, what is that? And then unless you stop and go and listen, it's still there.
It's still there.
It would be interesting to scientifically measure that vibration.
Well, the University of Cluj, they do a lot of experiments up there.
Yeah,
a lot of people who have filmed there for television. It's actually the university that films on the behalf because it's really like messed up there.
It'd be interesting to see that. To see those results.
And you're talking about anomalous sounds, in areas of high strangeness. Something that, and you can research this in other areas of high strangeness, not so much with my area, but in other areas, people talk about hearing sounds like a factory underground. That's a very common theme. So, these anomalous, low-pitched sounds, and in our case, a ticking or clicking sound, seems to be pretty common. Something else we've experienced in our particular location is if you're familiar with Ron Moorhead's Sierra sounds.
Yes, I've heard of
The
that.
Okay, we have
Yeah.
heard that strange, low, almost unintelligible mumbling, at our site,
Mm,
off in the distance. So yeah,
right.
there's certainly an
Yeah.
auditory, aspect to all of this. Absolutely.
What about underground bass?
Some
Maybe you
people,
hit on because we're not allowed to know where they all are.
yeah.
So
You mean
Well,
they've admitted we have them?
yeah, I know,
yeah.
right?
Oh, that's so unlike them.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I mean, it would sure make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? But
Well, it would, and there seems to be, and that's something that we're looking for with different areas of high strangeness are patterns. What patterns do we see? What seems to
yes.
be some sort of commonality, and strange sounds, anomalous sounds. Once again, the cubes, the boxes, orbs, seem
Hmm.
to be very common. So, as we study this, maybe we can start coming up with answers. Something we've done, which is really kind of cool, is we have gone into the meadow and done SD sessions, which were very illuminating, to say
Okay.
the
So
least.
can you describe that process?
Oh yeah, the, everybody's familiar with a ghost box. It
Of course.
Hmm.
scans
Yes.
FM radio stations, takes little fragments, and the theory
Yes.
behind that is quantum entanglement with the questioner and all of that. So that's the ghost box. Of course, one of
Yes.
the biggest criticisms of ghost boxes, which albeit is a legitimate criticism, is the questioner will hear what they want to say, what they want to hear. They'll hear a response to their question. So what the SD session does is take a ghost box, plug the output of the ghost box into either sound canceling earbuds or sound canceling headphones, and put them on
Mm,
a receiver on a human being. He
right.
or she cannot hear what's going on around them. All they hear is the sounds coming from the box.
Right.
And you also blindfold them so they can't see what's going on around
Hmm.
them. And their instructions are merely this: if you hear,
You're removing the other sensories basically and
right,
concentrating just on. Yeah. Okay.
you're, and their instructions are if they hear an intelligible word, regardless of what that word is, they are to repeat it out loud. So if they hear the word kumquat, they repeat kumquat or freight train or
Right.
shoelace or whatever they hear.
Right.
And so we did a SD session, and the entire transcript of the SD session is in the book. And also, if you go to the Oxford Paranormal Society YouTube page, we've got a actual video of the SD session there. And it appears as though we are communicating with some sort of entity. And this
Hmm.
entity becomes very agitated, not malicious, but just a little perturbed, miffed,
Hmm.
if you will, when we start asking about phenomenology of the portals. I'm asking,
Hmm.
is there electromagnetism involved? Is there microgravities? And it just starts becoming very perturbed. Almost like maybe we're asking questions it doesn't want us to ask. It's like not malicious, not mean, but just like, yeah, I just don't want to answer those. Go away. So what we try to do is we try to take the best practices out of the different disciplines, be it ufology, paranormal research, and put those in our toolbox,
Right.
and bring the tools out and try them and see what works in this particular location.
Yeah. That's a good way to do it because I think when everything is turned on within a person, it's very, very easy to perceive things that aren't there. It's like pareidolia,
Yeah,
in just in a different sense, right?
It
yeah,
becomes
and some,
suggestive when somebody reads off something. Did you hear that? It said demon, and then all of a sudden,
yeah,
everyone in that room is hearing. I know. I agree with that.
oh,
I
right,
love
yeah,
the
I heard it.
Estes method.
Yeah, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Now, of course,
Hmm.
it has its detractors, and that's perfectly cool. I get it.
Yeah.
That's fine. But you start putting together intelligible answers to specific questions. And then you start crunching the numbers statistically as
Hmm.
far as the odds, and it becomes pretty compelling. It certainly
Hmm.
does.
It does. I've used, the ghost box. I've had, one designed for me to be really able to fine tune it. You go to this crazy expense and get the portal and like full 9 yards. And then when I'm in Romania, it takes a little hack shack. You get up and you get the best stuff ever. Gosh, you're $20, like, come on.
Right?
It's crazy. I still have my hack shack, that I actually opened up back in,
But they're amazing. You go full throttle on an amazing system, and you get the best stuff out of the $20 piece. There we go, right there.
I've got really well when you have it charged.
But they're easy to travel with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got my Huff box here, that I spent all this money on, and then I got this, $8 box.
I also. I do. Yeah. I have it also. I like it. How do you think? What do you think of it? The portal box.
Oh,
the Huff box.
It's okay. I did. I actually built my own.
Did you really?
Yeah, and I used the portal. Yeah, I used the Portal Plus app, and then run it through a reverb and a noise filter, and then, it's crazy enough. I've had better luck with my little cheap,
It's
ghost
true.
box.
It's true. Pedro, you're putting up a lot of really interesting things there, and again, all pertaining to Romania. I think you should maybe, with all this information, I think you should just email the show's email at the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. I'd love to know more about all of this. Vampires having their DNA altered, and Romania, and the connection to the. I said nothing. Okay, well, we'll keep it at that, Pedro. I said nothing.
Unfortunately, about 20,000 people just read that, but okay. And then 2 million people heard
deny everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Just saying, Pedro.
Pedro's always
Michelle just spit that out to over 2 million people right now.
Sorry, Pedro. Just
okay, we haven't given his last name, so we're good. You might not want to comment on Facebook when you're doing that, though.
That was a big smile. I know. He comes in chat a lot. No, seriously though, email me. So, okay. So where do we go from here? You did this experiment. Do you feel that you got somewhere with that, or?
Yeah, I think that we were able to establish, some sort of communication. And there's a theory that I have, and it's as good as anything else. I want you to imagine a neighborhood. Okay, in this neighborhood, you have a sidewalk that runs in front of the various homes, and one of these sections of sidewalk is broken up and broken and torn up pretty bad, and the residents have been complaining about it. Well, earthquake.
Yeah.
And so the city sends out a team of workmen to repair this section of sidewalk. So they get there and they take their equipment out, and these workmen are like these entities. Okay, are they, what John Keel called ultra-terrestrials? I like to use the term paradimensionals. Are they from another dimension? Are they extraterrestrial? What are they? Whatever these entities are, they have obviously some sort of tasks to do. And their task may be totally alien to us, and we don't understand it. It'd be like a Neanderthal watching a clockmaker. He has no idea of what's going on. But nevertheless, these workmen have a job to do. So they're there repairing the sidewalk, and they pour their concrete, and they're smoothing it out. And this little kid comes along, maybe about 5 years old, kind of a Dennis the Menace kind of character.
Oh, boy, we love those.
and he's standing there, and he's jabbering at the workmen. Asking them asinine questions and just being a pest, a pain in the butt. Now, these workmen don't hate the kid, and they don't wish the kid ill. They just want to do their job and go back home for a nice cold one and a chicken pot pie. So, they have several options. They can ignore the kid. They can try to shoo the kid away. Or maybe if they're feeling friendly, they might interact with the kid until he gets to be too much of a pest, and then they'll try to divert his attention to something else. These entities, be they paradimensional or whatever, are the workmen. And we're the little kids sitting there trying to interject ourselves into their mission or task. And I believe during this SD session, I was the little Dennis the Menace kid asking these
Right.
innocuous questions, and then I started asking things that were distracting them, and they just, quite frankly, wanted me to get the heck out of there. And
Right.
so that's what I think that's what's going on. I think we're trying to conceptualize, understand, interact, grasp,
Hmm.
rationalize maybe something that we're the Neanderthals sitting at the side of the watchmaker trying to figure out exactly what's going on.
That's interesting because, and again, this is what Pedro said. He goes, I don't know what's alien anymore. Are they all interdimensional? Do these things come from the sky? Like we're talking about Project UFO, how we sit there, kids, we sit there and just wait
Right.
for it. Maybe we were looking in the wrong place. Maybe they're here already.
Well, maybe they are standing next to you right now, just a few millimeters out of frequency or out of phase from our reality.
Dimensional
And they've
or
been
interdimensional.
right, and they've been here all along.
Multidimensional.
Okay, let me throw this one out.
Okay.
On a
Am I ready?
quantum. Yeah, you'll survive. I haven't lost anybody yet. I promise.
No, Trey,
All right.
it's my
So-
fear of them. When I go like this, it's like, no, they're not beside me. No, they're
Yeah,
not.
she's very
No,
scared
it's
of
not.
them.
No,
happening.
don't look. No.
Yeah, that's who I am.
Imagine string theory. So you have reality or the universe in a string, in
Yep.
a linear cord,
Yes.
if you will. And these strings in reality loop back, and sometimes they touch themselves. So on
Right.
a quantum level, who or what are you most quantumly entangled with? Yourself.
Mm.
So what if in quantum entanglement of your past self or your future self actually interacting with your present self, and you're the one haunting yourself?
Yeah, that can be a little tricky. Or am I haunting myself? Is it sort of like the theory that the spirit, the soul, the essence can split several times and we can live all these lives simultaneously?
Absolutely.
Mm.
It's like
Yeah.
it's depending on your religious point of view, you hear about the Trinity, God the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Okay, let's take that interpersonally. I'm a father, I'm
Yes.
a brother, I'm a son, and I'm a friend. I'm all of these things at once at the same time, but they're
Right.
distinct, different elements of myself. So human beings are multidimensional beings. We're multidimensional creatures.
Yes.
Quite a few members of my team have trained in remote viewing.
Right.
Anybody out there is wondering about that? Yes, it does work. We were trained in the military style of coordinate remote viewing, or CRV, and it absolutely is real. It does work. It is quantifiable. There have been scientific studies done by the Stanford Research Institute and many others. So I know that's real, and I know for a fact that human beings are multidimensional creatures. So it stands to reason that we interact with ourselves maybe on other dimensions that we, as we're trapped in this three-dimensional Euclidean understanding of the universe, maybe don't quite understand.
Yeah, it can get really entangled. That's for sure. It really can. Some people will say, with some ETs, for example, a lot of people believe that grays are us in the future. And how we talk about the spirit box. When I had one designed at one point, and I said, okay, I want to fool around with this thing. It had some new settings. And all of a sudden, a voice came through. And I'm like, who are you? Because it just seemed to have a different feel. And it was like, you are us. We're you. I'm like, then it goes, we're one. I'm like, as in one. I go, like, you're me in the future. And they went, correct. I'm like, okay, now you are like effing me up because I wasn't ready for that answer. Just saying.
I actually had a chance back in the 80s to go to a thing with Raymond Moody, Dr. Raymond Moody.
Yes.
And it was a thing hosted by Dr. Roll, and Dr. Moody was channeling. And the entity that he was channeling said something very similar to what you just alluded to. Is he said, you, me, we.
There we
We're
go.
all there. You go.
So right there, to me, that's interesting. I do believe that. I think I've been in contact with them before. I've had time slips, like
Oh yeah,
slip in time come through the box. Yeah,
sure.
yeah. It just Air Force actually. Whole other story for you sometime. But yeah, I do think that these time slips come through. I do think that these dimensions somehow will cross over one another, and maybe as my producer and friend Joe will say, dimensional bleed through.
Sure.
It's his favorite
Sure.
his
I
favorite
know.
words to
We
use.
razz him all the
Bleed
time.
throughs. He
We
loves them.
talk ghosts, and he will say, "You mean dimensional bleed through?"
Yeah, he loves that
Not,
word.
not always the case.
Well, and that was something that some of my team members experienced something very similar to that when we discovered, or my team members picked up this cube forming in the meadow, this box. It's just imagine a cube on their FLIR equipment. It was a heat signature. Now, whether they were picking up an actual object or a change in temperature that the object was creating, we don't know. And as we dispatched a team to where this thing was as it dissipated, the team went to this area and their reality changed. They disappeared from our FLIR equipment. We could not see their image anymore, even though it was a winter evening with no foliage. And they described it as stepping into a area that was cold and almost as though they were surrounded by a black velvet curtain, very dark,
Hmm.
very heavy feeling, not oppressive, but just very dense. The ambiance was very dense. When they went
Hmm.
into the area, they did not encounter any brambles, briars, bushes, branches, anything like that. Went in totally unencumbered, unentangled. Yet when they came out, they ran into briars, they ran into bushes, they ran into things that weren't there when they went in. So things had shifted, an
Hmm.
interdimensional shift, just a little bit, to where the reality was just out of phase of that
Hmm.
particular forest meadow for that moment in time.
Does that happen a lot there?
We've had it happen that one time. We
Hmm.
did, about a year later, we did find linear, lack of a better term, tracks, but it was almost as though something was dropped into the meadow, traveled a distance, and was lifted out. Two linear parallel tracks, like tire tracks, but not
Hmm.
like tire tracks because the grass and vegetation was pressed over. It wasn't broken. There were small ant hills inside of the tracks that weren't compressed like crop
Hmm.
circles, except they were
Hmm.
linear. They weren't
Yeah.
circles.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And when my team was investigating this particular incident, they could see a cube or a box about 3 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters once again on their full spectrum camera. Except this was during daylight, not visible with the naked eye, only visible on full spectrum. Step to
Hmm.
one side of the track line, not visible. Step back into it, visible. And as they got ready to take a photograph, and anybody that's done paranormal or high strangeness research, this has happened. They hit the shutter button and they had forgotten their SD card. They had completely
Hmm.
left a piece of equipment back at the camp. And by the time we got back out there, this had dissipated. But I've got affidavits from these gentlemen. So these cubes do seem to be important somehow. They seem to be
Hmm.
relevant.
We
So
we
yeah, we
saw a cube one time come right over the car at a red light, and it was
there,
only about like this big, and it just went,
there
and
you go.
we're just like, did everybody see that?
Crazy. Yeah.
Recently, yeah, recently,
Yeah, and
yeah,
there's something about these cubes.
yeah.
The first cube we saw was maybe it was more rectangular than a real cubicle. It was more like a box, but it was like
Yeah.
20 yards by 30 yards by 30 yards. And then the one that we saw, my team members saw in the meadow on full spectrum was about uh, 9 feet by 9 feet by 9 feet. The chuba chubas that are mentioned in Brazil, which literally translates into sucker sucker. like chupacabra, but
Chupa Chupa chops, pops.
Chupa
They're
Chupa, yeah,
lollipops. Chupa
that's right.
Chupa pops. I gotta look and see where they were created first, because you're saying that literally means suckers.
That means sucker, sucker. Yeah, Chupa Chupa.
Yeah,
That's
Chupa
true.
Chupa is a lollipop. That's why I'm laughing.
Right. It's an interdimensional lollipop.
That's
My daughter is
Yeah,
exceptional. 20
Late-
years she's been eating those.
that's
Weird.
A DMT lollipop. You'll take you all kinds of places.
Oh, will it not? All right, good old DMT. Yeah, that'll
But,
bring you up.
God.
There's a journey.
Yeah. So a little ayahuasca there among friends, but
Oh,
Oh
sure.
my God, no.
but these
Yeah.
these cubes are very strange. And I'm actually supposed to be receiving a copy of the full report done by Dr. Leo Sprinkle of the Colorado ranch back in the 70s. So I'm going to dig down into that and research some of the cubes or boxes they experienced. But that's interesting that you saw a cube. That's very timely. That's interesting.
It went right over the hood of the car, and there was three of us in the car, and we were just like, but it's sort of like a translucent,
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So we had to do a double take. The driver was just like, I'm like, what I miss. I caught the tail end of it. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, it's like this cube. I'm like, and he's not a teller of tales at all. So, and he's very logical. So if he says that this is what it was, I have to, I believe it, because like, he just doesn't go looking for things, but you're at a red light and it just goes floating right over the hood. And it's just like, that was a thing. And I caught it just as it went out of my peripheral. So I did not personally see it like in full,
Yeah.
But it goes to show, like, they're just going around. Like, is this going to be, like, are they just like floating around? Like, what attracts them? Where areas do you find them mostly? Because this is like in the middle of a freaking intersection.
Well, there is a theory that's been there that we manifest this stuff. People that have been doing a lot of this, people that do a lot of this research, especially in extreme high strangeness, is we're finding stuff happens all the time to us now. As recently as last month, we went out to the meadow, and we're not able to go out to the meadow because of just some horribly extreme weather, really bad thunderstorms.
Yes.
And thought we were skunked. Nothing happened. We weren't able to go out. Everybody's walking around with a long face and disappointed, until one of our team members had her car start locking and unlocking, and the car alarm go off by itself. No explanation. Several of my team members left Saturday night because of the bad weather. Didn't let us do some research. As one guest researcher was driving up to Virginia, his GPS started taking him in circles. He had to keep driving miles out of the way to get back on his route.
Interference, yeah.
Magnetics or
something.
That unlocking and locking of the doors and the alarm going has happened to me several times in my lifetime since they've started using these. I've had that issue since the beginning of power locks. Sometimes I wonder if it's our energy, though.
Could be. Could be. We could be attractors ourselves. Had that same evening, another team member, her GPS kept taking her back to her starting point. Just in circles. Had another team member who actually was almost back to her home state. She lives several states away. She had her car completely die. All electronics in her vehicle died, and it limped over to the side of the road and then regained its operations about 40 minutes later.
You usually get that when there's a craft in the area.
Or if somebody's hacked your system. Bad cop.
Yeah.
If someone's hacked your system,
shut up, Amelia. You're no fun.
But it's happened to law enforcement.
Buzzkilling Trey and I.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to just
I know,
put some perspective. I know you are.
Yeah.
but take that one step further. The phenomenology that law enforcement uses is a directed EMP pulse weapon. Okay, and
I'm not
it
saying
just
law enforcement use it. I'm talking about a hacker on the other end who's
uh,
probably a little bit further ahead of law
yeah,
enforcement with
yeah,
their experience. I
Yeah.
know for a fact they have people that I know personally as detectives have had their cars hacked while
yep,
they were driving them by
yep,
suspects. We're talking about
yep.
serious people. That's what I'm saying. You just never know. It's like
Yeah,
the sleight of hand. Was it ET or was somebody hacking someone and it just happened to hit? I have to
oh, oh,
look at it all
I think if it
sides,
was
right?
like a specific individual, when you're looking at the different team members having different experiences, and you're in an area and of investigations that have, again, I always look for magnetics because it's quite normal to have
right.
different magnetic and under the ground at some point. But
Mm-hmm.
Well,
ET doesn't even have to be like UAPs or UFOs. Don't even have to be right over the road. I mean, they could
No,
be quite a
anywhere.
ways up.
right.
Like I could
Yeah,
see a specific individual being targeted, but you're talking like that this has happened to various people.
well, and
Yeah.
it gets even stranger. Is that the team member that had her car disabled by whatever, mechanical failure, a directed EMP from a
Mm,
hacker, some other, strange, paradimensional whatever.
mm,
After she got home,
A
uh,
remote viewer.
she's yeah, and
No, I'm not
she
saying she
noted
is. I mean, it could have happened through a remote viewer. Yeah.
she noticed on her phone there was a photograph on her phone of a field with several power lines running across it.
Hmm.
That photograph had all X-if data stripped off of it. The only thing that photograph had was a timestamp. She is a nurse and works night shift, and that phone was 18 inches from her head when that photograph was supposedly taken. She
Crazy.
she
Yeah.
sent the photograph out to us. We looked at it, couldn't figure out what was going on. Her mom said, "I know what that photograph is.
mm,
That's a photograph from a real estate listing for a piece of property that's for sale near you."
Hmm.
And you
mm.
go to the website for that listing, and that photograph is there. But she's not interested in
Interesting.
buying property, and she's never been there, nor has she taken that photograph. So, what does this mean? What
A message maybe to her.
perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
you go back and you look through the literature. Take Bud Hopkins. Go back and read some of his stuff. What happens sometimes when people experience their vehicle dying?
Mm-hmm.
There's something under the veneer of our recollection that's actually much more interesting. So
Mm.
something that I'm trying to do is, and I've had several members have had crazy experiences with weird radiation spikes, is I do some regressive hypnosis, to actually see if we can peel this veneer away and see maybe if there's something else going on just below the surface.
Oh, that's a
Mhm.
good idea. It's a
Mhm.
good way of approaching it because it's so hard. When I'm speaking, I'm not trying to pick or anything. I'm just trying to look at it the way when I say something, people look at me and say, well, how can that even be possible? Because I don't say anything is not real or can't be possible because I talk to dead people. Like I've got to be one of the craziest people in my group of friends, or the strangest or the most different, however you want to look at it. And I think that you always have to look at it all ways. But like Michelle said, when it's the entire team, it's kind of hard to dismiss those occurrences
Yeah,
as being, I don't believe in coincidences. I
I was
always
going to
believe
say I don't believe in
there's a
coincidences.
message with everything, but
Yeah.
sometimes things do happen at the same time as something else. And I don't see it as a coincidence. I just see it as it's unfortunate. It's an event. It inspired with cars. That's a tough one. That's
that
a
is
really
it.
tough one.
And
Anything mechanical, it's hard to explain.
it is, and I respect your approach. One of the things that I've done
Thank you.
over my federal career is investigations. I sometimes get national security investigations and other stuff, and so I look at things like that. My people that have read my book said, it reads like it was written by a government guy. And I'm like, well, yeah, it was.
Hello.
Well, you
so
kind of are one. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's very matter of fact. But,
Yes.
with my background in humanistic psychology and transpersonal psychology, I'm very much of an experientialist. The
Hmm.
experience has value. So I try to keep
Hmm.
one foot in both of those, sometimes competing and sometimes diverse worldviews of
Hmm.
facts, data, what's the nuts and bolts of it, but also what's the personal human experience. And when you start putting those things together and looking at them over those two grids, things get really interesting and really quite odd.
I do believe that there are locations and beings out there that will reach out. I've worked in some extraordinary locations throughout the world. I've been to some amazing places worldwide. And if you're meant to know something, or if something is trying to get your attention, whether it be the energy of a location or the energy of a being, or if you are meant to know, if you are meant to be there, it, they or it always seems to find a way,
Yes,
you know?
yes,
And with yourself being, okay, no, I'm government, I'm military. It's like you have a certain frame of mind. Your mind works a certain way. You're conditioned, through your
right.
career to work a certain way. So when all of this starts happening, how does that feel for you? Do you go into full logic mode, or you kind of go, shit, that was really cool?
Well, yeah,
you know,
yeah, yes and no. My background, going all the way back from when I was commissioned as an Army Intel guy in 1987. But even
right.
before that, I was that geeky kid in the 70s, reading the UFO
Yes.
magazines. So,
Right.
I try to look at it from both perspectives. Uh, Data is important.
Mm.
We're starting to see some commonalities in not only our location but some other locations. We've talked about the cubes ad nauseum. That's there.
Right.
We're also seeing little tiny micro radiation spikes uh, when some of
Hmm.
this stuff happens. And when I say tiny, normal background radiation, let's say zero point 0.0 microsieverts per hour. That's just
Mm.
a very basic background radiation. But when we're asking questions during SD session, it jumps up to 0.12 microsieverts per hour.
Hmm.
We had a situation where we had a gentleman manning base camp in the middle of the forest. I mean, in the middle of nowhere on a moonless night, and the road in this nature preserve that was adjacent to our campsite, a craft
Hmm.
passed by. And I use the word craft because he didn't see it, but he heard something pass by. This area is so dark that you would not be able to drive a vehicle down this road at night without the most advanced Generation 3 military night vision equipment. You just couldn't do it.
Mm.
Strangely enough, when this craft passed by him, 4 or 5 feet over the ground, and he heard it pass by, we run Geiger counters, and his Geiger counter spiked up to 0.66 microsieverts per hour. So there was these little tiny spikes of radiation. So we're trying to track that down, and I'm starting to hear that some of the other strange sites are seeing these little tiny spikes of radiation too. What does
Mm.
that mean? I don't know. We're continuing to investigate it.
Well, I mean, I guess it's one of those situations where you have to look at, everything that happens on that property.
Yeah,
I can, let's use Hoibatu just for shits and giggles because I've been there, so I can comment somewhat. But I mean, you have the locals who are always seeing, and everybody's got a camera phone now, right? So it's a little bit
right,
easier, but they're always taking photos, and they see lights in the skies, they see things hovering over the mountain. It's under a no-fly zone for a reason, I'm thinking. There's the folklore of the Bermuda Triangle. There's a folklore of a potential
right.
portal. There's cryptid stuff. Like it's got that whole mix. So when you start looking at everything, again, that humming, constant humming,
Hmm.
droning sort of sound, when you start piecing everything together, it's like, okay, now what could cause the things that you're talking about? So if there's a
Right.
base there, or a portal, or a craft, could that create little tidbits of radiation like that?
It could be.
I would think a
It's
craft would.
yeah, craft wood, and are these, some sort of residue of a process? There's a
Okay.
process. The workmen working on the sidewalk, the residue of their
Right.
process might be spilt concrete. The residue of the process of whatever these paradimensionals are doing might be radiation. It might
Mhm.
just be, radiation or
Yeah.
exhaust from whatever equipment they're using.
Right.
Uh,
Mhm.
and you mentioned something that I wanted to circle back to is you mentioned folklore
Hmm.
is what got us to this site was regional folklore. And I
Mm.
mentioned it earlier this evening as I originally was searching for a haunted road that locals had
Yes.
talked about. And, it was one of those things where, the locals like, don't you dare go down that road. There are haints down there, that kind of thing.
Right.
Don't venture down there after dark because something bad or malevolent will happen.
And every piece
And
of folklore starts with a little grain of an eyewitness account
oh,
of some sort.
Truth.
absolutely,
Fact.
and
Yeah.
it's people trying to pound experiences into the round experiences into the square hole of their worldview, and folklore
Mm.
is a mechanism they do that with. And so, what I always tell other researchers and investigators: follow the folklore. This
Hmm.
place that we're researching, you start peeling back the folklore, tons of cryptid sightings, very, very rich history of cryptid sightings. Go to some of the
Hmm.
databases, go to, BFRO and some of these other groups, go to some of the public MUFON databases, started finding out that this area has a very rich UFO history. Go back to
Hmm.
Native American folklore. About the first 25% of my book is Native American folklore and history of this area, going back, to the Native American First Nations folks, all the way up into strange
Mm.
occurrences that people have reported, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way up into the 80s. Uh, and you start uh, looking at this stuff as an analyst. I put on my Army Intel analyst hat, and back in the 80s, we didn't have all
Hmm.
this whiz bang stuff. We had a paper map and we had acetate plastic overlays and a pen, and we would mark, enemy positions are here, and that's how we would do it. So if you take a map and a piece of plastic overlay, and you say, okay, I'm going to use a brown marker, I'm
Hmm.
going to mark all the Bigfoot sightings. Then you take
Right.
a new piece of plastic, you say, I'm going to use a yellow marker, I'm going to mark all the ghost sightings. And
Right.
then take another piece of paper and use it blue and say, okay, I'm going to mark all the UFO sightings. And you
Hmm.
lay all three of these on top of one another, you're going to start to see patterns.
Right.
And these
Right. Right.
patterns
Right.
are very telling. And something that you mentioned of the Romanian forest is the missing girl that disappeared.
And
Strangely
reappeared.
enough,
The
and
shepherd
reappeared.
never
Strange.
reappeared with his 200 flock, but the missing
Right.
girl appeared 5 years later, still the same age.
And I'm sure when the shepherd disappeared, everybody said, "What the flock?" That's
Right?
a joke.
Where'd he go? I
Yeah,
know.
I don't.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
but
know. What the flock? I
it,
like it.
it is our location is not too far from one of David Paulides' missing 401 clusters. So that's another thing to plug into the mix.
Mm. So that's a whole other mix right there.
Yeah.
You had a question?
Yeah, but Zachman asked a question, but he's referring to the Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay, ask. I don't know if
Well, okay. Sorry. Now something just let me go back up.
Yeah.
Skinwalker Ranch is near the Ute
Ute.
Native American Reservation. Has the local tribe provided accounts, both past and present, related to the area?
Now, in all fair, I am not an expert on Skinwalker Ranch. I do know people
Yeah.
that were, and I was just talking to a gentleman as recently as yesterday that is, and absolutely the Ute tribe has a very rich history of high strangeness in that area. Absolutely.
Have they
If
provided stories to them? That's what he's asking.
Yeah,
Have they
yeah,
provided accounts to them personally?
yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. There you go, Zach.
I think along with past owners as well. Like it's pretty
yes,
documented. Yeah,
yeah.
location. Pedro had made an interesting comment actually about natural portals. There are natural
Ah,
portals all over the place where you can go to other planets or locations where you don't age. This girl definitely did not age, but she came back and her mind wasn't there. She came back with her little doll, same little doll,
Mhm.
and it's just like there was no expression. There was nothing was connecting with her again.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's temporal shifts, time
Yeah.
running in different relativistic ways
Paradoxes.
is not unknown. We had an experience where we were in the meadow, and we had set up several teams in the meadow itself, and there's a ridge to the south of us, and we were going to have a team member work his way across the top of the ridge, drop down in the west end of the meadow, and then work his way past, picking up the teams as he retreated. We have radio communications and all of that, so we keep up with everybody.
Right.
And so as the gentleman came down off of the ridge into the west end of the meadow, my team that was in the middle took their FLIRs, and they're watching him. They see his heat signature go into the meadow. And as they're watching his heat signature walk towards them, his heat signature went from a man-shaped, signature to a sphere or an orb, and travel several hundred meters in a matter of seconds, and then reform back into a man-shaped heat signature. They got on their radio and they said, "Bob, are you okay?" And they're watching through their equipment, and they see this man-shaped heat signature bring a radio up to its mouth and say, "I'm fine. Why are you asking?" So it was him.
Oh my God.
He did turn into.
Yeah.
And so to give you a background about the gentleman that observed this, is one gentleman was a graduate of the Georgia Institute of Technology, very highly respected university, has a master's degree in public administration, is a lifelong paramedic, very down to earth, feet on the ground kind of guy. The other gentleman has dual degrees from Georgia Tech in philosophy and physics. He's a physicist, also served as a special operations soldier in the U.S. Army's Ranger Regiment. Very down to earth guys, and they saw this. And where it gets really weird is the sphere traveled several hundred meters in a few seconds. The fastest runner that you saw in the Olympics this past week could not travel over this terrain in that speed. It's impossible. From the perspective of the gentleman that was observed, all he was doing is walking across the meadow. He didn't detect anything different. So whose time was shifted? Was it the subject or the observers? There was some sort of time shifted.
Yeah.
And we argue about that even to this day, as like, "Oh, no, you were the one who had a time shift. No, screw you. You were the one." And so, these areas have some sort of temporal anomalies where time runs differently, at specific at specific times or specific moments. There was an experiment done at the Mesa Verde cliff dwellings using I'm not sure the exact phenomenology. I believe it was using Doppler shift with lasers, and time actually ran a little bit differently at Mesa Verde than it did at the control using the control group. So
that's interesting.
So you mentioned time and temporal shifts and portals changing, the way time flows. Absolutely. And the little girl, it sounds like, experienced that, but on a macro scale, of years, not moments or seconds.
And it totally changed her, like from a molecular standpoint. Like she just was not the same. Some locations will do that. The energy is just so much, it's just so too much. People get sick, people get scratched, people get thrown, it's just what comes through these locations. You mentioned Colorado. Can you give us a bit of background on that? And for those who don't know, this isn't like Skywalker Ranch, is it? Not Skywalker. What's it called?
Stardust.
With all the aliens. Stardust. Yes.
Yeah. That's in Arizona. This
Arizona,
was
a different one again.
And this was in Colorado. And if you read the book Hunt for the Skinwalker by George Knapp, in the first chapter or two, they refer to a Colorado ranch where almost exactly the same circumstances as Skinwalker Ranch happened, but this was back in, I believe, the 70s. what's really interesting, like I said, is I met an individual in June that lived at that ranch. And we were at a convention, and when she started hearing about some of my experiences, she made a beeline and said, I wanted to talk to you and tell you about the boxes, the cubes that we experienced at this ranch. You can go to, I think it was IFRO, I believe was the early UFO organization, had some articles in their journal about this Colorado ranch. It was investigated by Dr. Leo Sprinkle back in the
Mm-hmm.
70s or 80s. And it was, they had cryptids, they had disembodied voices, they had
Mm-hmm.
cubes, boxes showing up, with different kind of flashing lights. They had
God,
UFOs. They had pretty much,
yeah, it
all,
almost sounds ET,
yeah,
the cubes.
yeah. They do sound very, ET, and I'm using quotes because whatever an ET is, but it does have that kind of
I
flavor,
like
that,
that.
that kind
I'm
of
going to steal
flavor
that
to
from
it.
you, Trey.
What's that?
Sorry,
Air quotes?
I'm gonna steal it. No, when you said it does sound like ET, but whatever ET is, quote unquote, Trey Hudson. I'm
Air
stealing that.
quotes.
I love it.
Yeah,
I'm
it's.
stealing it.
I mean, yeah,
Yes.
in this business, we have to be careful of labels. Putting things in labels.
Absolutely.
So,
Don't we though?
Absolutely.
so,
Yes, we
so.
do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. So that's interesting. It's just like this location that had all this going on before paranormal television,
Oh yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
that popularized, Stardust Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch. This is something that's, now that you've mentioned it, how many people are going to be, oh, where is that place? Because all these shows that run out of locations, like, oh my gosh, here's a new one. So is this something, I mean, I would imagine this location is still having these issues. Is this someplace that you get to go and investigate?
No, it's it's
Or closed
moved
off?
on, and other than that, very detailed investigation by Dr. Sprinkle and his associates. I don't know if any follow-on's been done to it. Um,
Right.
and it might be the owners don't want it, or it could be that the phenomena
Yeah.
has changed. That's something we've experienced, is the phenomena changes.
Mm-hmm.
Which
We've
is why you sort of need to keep working on
yeah,
it, though.
keep an open mind, and
Hmm.
be very cognizant that if you're looking for the same thing, you might get a wild pitch out of left field. That's what's happened to us. Is we've had I'll give you a case that happened to us. We went to the meadow, and we were using Dr. Greer's CE5 protocol.
Hmm.
A lot of my team members are remote viewers, so we were able to get into that state, project intention. Hey, we're down here. Come visit us. Everything's cool. Nothing happened.
Right.
Just nothing happened. We were bummed out. So we ended up just sitting around the field, just talking and enjoying each other's company, which has tremendous value in and of itself. So it was a
Hmm.
success as far as spending an evening with good friends. Came back, uh, kind of disappointed. Everybody turned in that Saturday night, getting up to pack our camp for Sunday morning so everybody could go off to their respective places. One of my team members come up to me. This team member is an engineer, got his degree from the U.S. Air Force Academy, spent several years in U.S. Air Force Special Operations, and is now a consultant, international consultant in his chosen field. His name is Tony.
Hmm.
Very dialed in guy, is also a trained remote viewer. And he said, Trey, I need to tell you what happened to me last night. I'm like, yeah, I know. We sat out in the field and just, shot the bull. He goes, no, no, no. After that, he said, I woke up about 4:30 in the morning, and I had these two words just seared into my brain. And the words were Knox Magbee, phonetically spelled Noxmagbee, Knox Magbee.
Hmm.
And he
Mm-hmm.
said, and I just thought that was weird. And I went back to sleep, and he said again at 6:30, I woke again, and these same two words were seared into my brain. Do they
Hmm.
mean anything to you? And I'm like, you know, I'm not sure. Let me write it down phonetically and let me do a little research. So, not thinking anything would come of it, I did a little research the next week, and I found out that the word Nox, Nox, is the Roman goddess of the night, who was derived from the Greek goddess Nyx, Nyx. So Nox means goddess of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's interesting. So what does Magby mean? So that turned out to be a little more difficult. And I found in the original poem of Beowulf, written in Old English about 500 AD, the word Magba, which means kindred or children. Okay. Now, the Romans left Great Britain about 500 AD, so it's reasonable that the word Nox, Roman goddess, and Magba would be contemporaneous, that the people during that time would be familiar with the Roman gods. So the two words could be used together. You put them together and you get children of the night goddess. What do we have that are like children that come to people at night that are very small in stature with enlarged heads? That come to people in the middle of the night.
Wow.
Bam. Little grays.
Wow.
I'll give you a hint. There's one on the front of Whitley Strieber's book Communion.
Oh yeah. Little grays.
3 feet tall.
Right. And this download came to Tony the night we did the CE5 protocol, which we thought was uneventful. So this place is continuously throwing us wild pitches from left field.
Wow.
Amelia, station ID.
I've got to slip in here, Trey. I'm sorry.
This is a technical part. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We get scolded otherwise. Go ahead.
Right now, you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and myself, Amelia Pisano. And tonight's special guest is Trey Hudson. And we're talking everything from skinwalkers to UFOs to UAPs and ETs. What are those, really? So I told you I was going to steal it. So if you're in New Orleans, you're listening live on 105.3 FM. And the rest of you are either watching us on YouTube or Twitch or listening to us on our many, many different streaming sites, including Facebook. We are UFO Paranormal Radio, and I will always call us United Public Radio, UPRN Talk Radio, as well as Gods and Extraterrestrials. I'll never get that one right. That's all I'm saying. But tonight and every night that we are here on the Outer Realm, we are so grateful to be fully sponsored by the amazing people at Folgers Coffee. Thank you so much, Folgers, for that. That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
Thank
I've got
you.
a fan on, so I'm very fidgety because the hairs and the flyaways are driving me.
No, those little tiny hairs. I could strangle myself with my own hair.
I'm dying here because we're in a heat wave in Southern Ontario. Like it's literally in the 80s late at night. So it's really, really hot. But sorry if I'm so distracting there.
Hot
my
flash.
Gosh.
So, so basically it's always delivering, it's always changing, it's always giving you information. So that's pretty incredible.
It is. And shameless book plug, the Meadow Project Explorations of the South Skinwalker Range. Thank you very much. I got to pay the bills too. I'm kidding.
We'll give you like you'll have all kinds of time to promote yourself before.
I'm kidding. But
it's okay.
We have just this all these weird experiences, and what I have to do is be very careful and not box myself into expecting one type of phenomena. You have to kind of, when the phenomena comes knocking, you need to be ready to open the door and let it in, because you really don't know what it's going to be with this particular location.
And what I thought this was pretty impressive. What's been the one that's caught you off guard the most?
The one that caught us off guard the most was the mysterious businesswoman of the forest.
Okay, that's definitely different. What's that all about?
Like I said, out of left field.
Yeah.
And this story gets strange.
Okay.
As if it all is,
because it's not strange enough, right?
The evening that we were doing our investigation of the portals where our team members went into and came out of, we had gathered back together, pulled all the teams in, and we were trying to decide, do we need to continue to investigate, because that particular night we have a portal or some sort of temporal rift. We've seen beings on our FLIR, energy beings that did not correspond with the known location of any team members. And so we had all this really crazy stuff going on, and we were trying to make a decision: do we continue to investigate, or do we go back, do a after action briefing, an AAR, after action review, on video, and try to make sure we recount these events while they're fresh on our minds? And we were debating this back and forth. And as the team leader, I said, we're going to go back and do a debrief. We want to capture this data, as much as we can while it's fresh. And my base camp operator, like I said, we always have radio communications. We have a radio net that we check into every hour. Everybody knows where everybody is. And my base camp operator came over the radio and he said, Trey, there's somebody here you need to see. And I'm like, okay, Glenn, I'll see you when I get back to camp. We're getting ready to. He goes, no, it's not me. It's somebody else. Like, what the heck is that? Somebody else?
What?
Here we are. It's February, and this is, 2200 hours at night, 10:30 or 22:30 at night, 10:30 at night, in the wintertime, in the middle of nowhere, literally in the middle of nowhere, and there's somebody at the camp. So I go back, and much to my surprise, what do I see? I see a businesswoman waiting for me back at camp, wearing loafers, slacks, a blouse, and a blazer. And this businesswoman makes a beeline straight towards me, and she starts telling me this story of this deserted country road in the nature preserve that has a dwelling at the end of it. And at the end of this road, the dwelling houses something that she calls a family of monkey bears.
Is this woman real or is she a ghost? I have to ask.
I was going to ask her, is this a woman in black experience and you're not realizing it?
Yeah.
Now you're tracking. You're tracking.
Okay.
So she,
once in a while, once in a while.
She is continuously wanting us to drop what we were doing and go and investigate these monkey bears. Now I know what a gummy bear is. It's,
right.
But I don't know what a monkey bear is. And so she is continuously, just trying to inject herself into our operation as a distractor. And she's making small talk with me, and she's acting very strange, very off, if you will. So odd, so off that during her conversation with us, she stops her conversation, moves about 20 yards away from the group, still within the light of our lanterns, squats down and urinates in front of us.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just
So
this is a little this is a little WIB. Sorry.
And it's like, this is crazy. This is insane.
What do you mean? This isn't normal human behavior, Trey? Am I exhibiting something incorrect?
I don't know how humans act where you're at, but in Alabama, they don't act like that, where I'm from. But it was very odd. So, and then she strikes up a conversation with me. She says, where did you go to school? What university did you go to? And I'm like, just trying to get her to go away. I say, University of West Georgia. Well, what did you study there? She asked. And I said, my degree's in psychology with a minor in anthropology. She goes, that's strange. I have a degree in psychology from there too. I'm like, okay, sure. You're echoing, you're parroting what I tell you. So I'm going to catch her, right? I'm going to trick her up. I said, who were some of your favorite professors that you worked with there? And no kidding, she started naming professors that I knew personally, people I knew. So I'm like, okay, that's very odd.
You now have my attention.
And so we started getting kind of weirded out by this. And we were able to finally get her to leave. She finally went away. And you hit on something. You said a WIB. Not dressed for the occasion. Does not understand social cueing. Like when we started saying, you have a good night, goodbye, the social cueing is this interaction is over, you need to leave. Doesn't understand how humans interact with one another, i.e. we don't urinate in front of each other unless we're really, really good friends, which we weren't.
It's
and
not even then.
and then number 4 is they are distractors. They tried to
Yes.
distract you. And John
Yeah.
Keel's wonderful book, The Mothman Prophecies, has, myriad accounts of men in black trying to distract people. You
Yes.
know,
Hmm.
so this woman gave a name. We were able to do a little digging around on the internet, and we found a woman in this general area that matched her location and matched her reported profession. Now, her profession is of such that her behavior was so odd, it could possibly call into question her licensure. She was acting that weird. So
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, so I have three options here. It was something else masquerading as a woman.
A
It was
mimic.
an it was a actual woman being controlled by something else, or it was a businesswoman who just happened to be in the forest in the middle of the night that went to the same university as me, urinating in front of me, having the absolute worst night of her life.
Yeah.
Those are my three options.
Yeah, I think one
So,
and two kind of
Having a
can blend
DMT
in.
moment.
so
But your first theory and your second theory really could be one theory.
could be. So this is where it starts to get even weirder. I had a
Gets
message.
weirder.
Yeah, weirder.
All
Uh,
right.
I had a message pop up on my Facebook account from a psychotherapist in Istanbul, Turkey, that wanted to talk to me. And he actually wanted to talk to me about, he also has a psychology degree from the University of West Georgia. So a little bit of synchronicity going on there. And he wanted to talk to me about the Carrollton vortex, which was a very area of high strangeness near the area where I went to school. And during the conversation, I said, "Hey, I ran into an individual named Jane Doe who
Hmm.
claimed she went to the University of West Georgia. Does that ring any bell?" And he automatically responded back, "I plead the fifth. We need to talk."
And I will not urinate in front of you. Don't worry. It's like,
Yeah,
that is just
now
bizarre.
what?
I'm sorry.
What
Yeah,
happened
that's-
from there? Did you get in touch with him and come together and
yes,
discuss this? Okay, are we
yes.
privy to more?
We've had several Zoom meetings, and this is a
Okay.
real person, and he knows her, and says that the person that I was describing is totally out of character for her. And he goes, "Would you mind if I talk to her?" I said, "By all means, reassure her I am not interested in outing her, or displaying her name, or where she lives, or anything like this. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this."
So somebody
Yeah,
else is
because
basically in the driver's seat then.
well,
Yeah,
there's a 15-minute window of a little bit of weirdo psycho going on here. You want to make sure she's okay too if she's a friend.
right, right.
Yeah.
And so he, being a psychotherapist, he reached out to her, and she said, "Yes, that was me. I remember that evening. And I was driving around after a stressful day at work to decompress." Okay, that's kind of an odd place to be driving around, but I'll buy it. And she
Mm-hmm.
goes, "They seemed like they were covering up something they didn't want to share with me." Once again, that was right. We weren't going to share our operation with her. But she goes, "There was nothing odd about the interaction." He
Yeah.
says,
So
he goes, "You didn't act weird or strange." She goes, "No, they seemed kind of weirded out, but no, there was nothing strange about it at all." So it's
wow.
all,
That's
Is
just,
she aware that she just dropped her pants and
yeah. And, he said that, your actions really freak these people out. And these are, the background of some of these people, they're used to very stressful, you know, situations of conflict, and they don't get rattled, and you
mhm,
rattled them.
right.
And so, I asked, my new friend here in Turkey, I said, if she would like to talk to me, I would love to speak to her. I would love to do an interview. I am not interested in embarrassing
Mm.
anybody, or, anything like that, but I'm trying to find out what's going on. And his thoughts are that something was controlling her.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's, I mean, possession.
Yeah.
I guess it's a matter of who stepped into the driver's seat.
Right, right. And you said, what was the thing that, was the
For
strangest and the
sure.
most unnerving? That's it.
I
That
could
was
see that. I could completely see that. I think I would be left a little gobsmacked with that personally.
it, it was so weird and so odd and so unnerving.
Mm-hmm.
My friend who I mentioned was a U.S. Army Ranger.
Mm.
I went to him and I said, Tim, do you have your sidearm with you? Because we were literally in the middle of nowhere. And he goes, yeah, of course. And I said, well, I've got mine too. I said, we're going to back off about 50 meters out of camp and we're going to walk around the perimeter in the dark to make sure she didn't leave anything behind for us. You know,
Hmm.
You
where
know, go ahead, Trey, please.
oh no, I'm just saying. And there, we found nothing. There were no stragglers. No commandos hiding in the dusky darkness for waiting for us, or grays, ready to probe us. It
Yeah.
was quiet the rest of the evening, but it unnerved us to the point that I felt like we needed to do a little perimeter patrol to make sure that we were safe.
Absolutely, because here you are working on something you're not discussing, and how else better to get into your field where you're operating rather than, show up as someone that you already know and most likely would talk to and bring in. But, women in black aren't only showing up as themselves. They can go in and transform or slip right in and come through that way as well.
So do reptilians.
So do reptilians.
Just saying. They do.
Demonic entities. Yeah, but
and they do shapeshift.
Demonic would never do anything like that because there's nothing to gain from them from there.
With reptilians, it's not so much that they shapeshift, but they, as it is that they project how they want you to see them.
But she has a recollection of it, though. So she was physically there. She just doesn't have.
So that's more
she just doesn't have. No, she doesn't have
step in.
I feel like it was a step in that maybe this is why it sounds so ET to me, because there's parts of her memory that are erased, obviously, with the urinating. Maybe, this is something
or maybe
that
not.
he thought was not, or maybe not.
It's okay.
Let's hope that was something that was not normal for her.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yeah, but I don't usually drop my pants in front of everybody, like.
Wow. So, as we're slowly, nearing, we've got about 15 minutes. So what's next for you guys, for yourself and your team with this?
A couple of things are next. We will continue to investigate this site as long as we're able to.
Right.
Sadly, what has happened to some of these sites of high strangeness that are owned by governmental entities, be they state, city, or federal, is as soon as people start getting too close to the truth, they start closing sections off. There's a area in Georgia in the War Woman Nature Preserve. Areas have been closed off to that. Parts of Uwharrie National Forest, are closed off. So, we're hoping that by not disclosing the exact location, it doesn't pop up on the radar and it gets shut off to us. So as long as we're able to investigate it, we will. Now, this area is, about a quarter of a mile from the closest road. So we're able to, we would pack our stuff in there even if they did close it all.
Right.
Put the stuff on our back. We've done it before. It's not a problem. So we will continue to investigate. The phenomenology will lead where the investigation goes. So we're starting to see some patterns. We're also starting to see, like we talked about, some really weird things thrown out of, coming out of left field. So, we have to be prepared for that. We have to be very specific on the type of equipment we carry because we just can't take the kitchen sink with us. So we're starting to narrow down some of our equipment. We've purchased some dual-use equipment. We have psionics, digital night vision cameras, which are very nice pieces of equipment.
Nice.
We have small FLIR. We've invested in some Gen 3 night vision equipment.
The Army can't just throw you a few here and there.
Well, no, I wish they could. Yeah, that's called
remember that one I used in Afghanistan? You don't need it anymore, do you?
Yeah, no.
It's old.
Those night vision glasses are nice.
So that's next. We're going to continue to investigate it as long as we can.
Right.
Good. Good for you.
Unfortunately, we've lost some of our members. We had a key member pass away
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
last year,
so
sorry.
about
sorry
a
to
year
hear that.
ago.
I'm sorry.
And so, we continuing on as best we can.
Mm.
And some of the things that we're going to experiment with further is, of course, hypnotic regression. I think that there is some things that have gone on by our team members, and then looking at my experiences in this area prior to me investigating it, just from backpacking in this area, I think I've got some things that are screen memories. Very weird happenings that are just
Mm.
right on the edge of weirdness that might be
Mm.
screen memory. So I think that will yield very interesting results. Uh, we are looking at possibly getting the story out to a larger audience through different mediums, television, movies, things like that. It's not my story. It's the
Mm-hmm.
world's story. Okay,
Mhm.
everybody needs to know this. It belongs to the world. So we get the information out there so people can make up their own mind. An experiment that we're trying to get funded is use electromagnetic stimulation of frontal brain lobes. Is actually go
Oh,
out into the meadow,
that'll be tough.
run,
Yeah.
run. There's actually a field deployable piece of equipment that'll do that, and it shoots electromagnetic pulses across your temporal lobes. It creates a altered state of consciousness and awareness, and then do that in conjunction with the Estes protocol.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that sort of technology. That's a tough one. It's one of those
Yeah,
things where, you want to get a volunteer and all the crazies
yeah,
go, I'll
yeah.
do
Well,
it. You're like,
yeah. Pick the
okay.
team member pick the team member you don't really like. Well, yeah,
Exactly.
I do it
no
for
one,
you.
yeah,
Brainwaves, thank
nobody
you,
on.
Bubbles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
I
plane
would do it
ticket
for
is
you, Trey.
a
Mm.
plane ticket is in the mail. Just you just have to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
That's. But
Electrical
Yeah, but
waves
unfortunately,
and
Biden's not letting me in. Otherwise, I would do it for you.
yeah. Well,
yeah.
hey, don't blame me. But
No, I'm not
yeah.
blaming you at all.
Okay, so
But
that's
no,
that's interesting. And what do you hope
yeah.
to find with that? What do you hope to find or accomplish with that?
Is what I hope is by altering the state of awareness, state of consciousness
Right.
of the receiver, and there's a whole lot of theories that the psychonauts through DMT,
Yeah.
ayahuasca,
Hmm.
all
Mushrooms, all this stuff.
these altered states of consciousness actually open
Yep.
up doorways, and they open up,
They,
even more importantly, perception. So
yep.
if
It's true.
being the nice, clean, law-abiding folks that we are, if we can do that through a means other than chemically with
Yes.
electromagnetic stimulation, which we
Hmm.
can control, by the way, we can control
Hmm.
that empirically, is open up an altered state of consciousness, and the SD session might yield much better, clearer, and more coherent results.
Hmm.
So that's and that's a theory. I don't know. It might be completely uneventful, but
Have
then
you heard
again,
of there was, if you remember watching the old Paranormal State show,
mhm,
Bill Chappell did a piece of equipment. I own it. I've never used it. I used to do events, which were basically people would say they want to know if it exists.
mhm.
This was one of those people. It was equipment. It's called the God Helmet,
That's
and
exactly
it
the
was
piece of
exact.
equipment. That's what I'm looking into. That piece of equipment.
I own
Mm-hmm.
it.
Oh, really?
I own it. I've never used it.
What are your
Again,
rental
all my
fees?
team members would be like, "Oh no, pick us, pick us!" I'm like, "Oh, y'all knew what's wrong with you? You could fry your brain cells," But I had to sign more waivers to get that into the country.
Yeah. Oh,
But I
yeah.
do own it, and it's all these
Yeah.
electrodes, and it just,
Yep.
yeah, yes,
Yep. And
and their thing was, "Oh, it'll make you think you're psychic." They're like, "What?"
I am psychic. Why would I have to think I'm psychic?
No, but I guess for some people who aren't intuitive, it gives you this
Oh,
sensation, right, of what's
but
around you. This is what you're trying to tap into this, and then while you're combining the experiments,
so why haven't you put that thing on my head yet?
too much hair.
Too much.
No,
You don't. She doesn't want to fry
I've
my
never
brain
used it.
cells.
I've
No,
never
I
used it.
know.
I have a huge arsenal of stuff I have never used, and that's just one of them. I just couldn't bring myself to strap it on to one of my team members. I just didn't feel at the time that everyone was experienced enough, right? So
yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, me.
oh, I know.
The waiver's coming over your fax machine.
I
Here it
don't
comes.
need the helmet. I get really far out there, but it would be cool to experience it without having to take a drug. I'm just because I've never done the ayahuasca stuff. I've never done none of that because I'm fortunate to have the gifts of mediumship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, even Zach, man, I'll be your guinea pig, Michelle.
And
we'll put on Joe first.
What I'm hoping is, I've done some sensory deprivation stuff, in the samadhi tank, and that's very, mind opening, very very interesting. So, I'm wondering is maybe that's the next step? Is that the next logical, step down the trail, of discovery in this place, and we won't know until we try it.
I agree with you. I think you're stepping into, opening up that dimension or sort of merging them together, with this whole perception thing. I think that experiment would do it. I do.
Yeah.
Knowing how the equipment works, I think that would work for you for what you're trying to do. Sounds fascinating.
So Trey, if you ever need a more than willing participant who's a medium, I'm right here.
Well, the problem is, as you can tell, we're all larges, in my team. So a medium might not be.
So this is the point of the show where you get to promote. Tell us about your books, your websites, your social media, whatever you want everybody to know.
Sure. The cool thing is the book is on Amazon. It's The Meadow Project: Exploration into the South Skinwalker Ranch. We have it on hardback, softback, ebook, and audiobook. Personally, I think the ebook is a heck of a deal. I think it's $5.
Wow.
Give it a shot. There is tons of stuff in there I have not been able to cover. Everybody that's read the book, has said their mind is absolutely blown. Where do you find me? I hide a lot. Good luck. No, I'm kidding. The best way to find me is you can go to Facebook and go to Trey Hudson-author. That's my Facebook page. And also the Oxford Paranormal Society has a Facebook page, and I post stuff on there. On Amazon, just type in my name, Trey Hudson. The book will pop up. It's been doing very well. I'm trying to get some speaking gigs, around. I was at the Mega UFO conference in Laughlin in June. So that's also my lecture is, I think, available. I think Bob Brown is selling that for purchase on DVD. If you're interested in seeing the videos and some of the stuff I talked about, that's there too.
That's fantastic.
I'm so impressed that you have an audiobook available, because I think that's like the big up and coming trend right now is people listening to these audiobooks, when they're going back and forth to work and things like that, and maybe transmitting on trains or whatever. I think it's fantastic that you have that option. I'm seeing a really, really big rise in that. Smart move.
Yeah, I've got a good publisher.
And of course, we're anxious, to hear how your experiments go. So maybe as you delve a little deeper and such, maybe connect up with us again and we maybe do this again. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
absolutely. And show up in my camp wearing business attire. I guarantee you'll get my attention.
I promise that. Yeah, we won't.
Not to squat. We're both going to say at the same time. No. We finish each other's sentences. Again, I want to reiterate, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for sharing with us tonight. You are a complete joy, and thank you for letting me pick. I love that.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to spend the evening with two lovely ladies.
Thank you, Trey.
And for
thank
you.
You have a good night. Thank you again.
Okay.
All the best with that research. Well, everyone, we've come to another fantastic segment here of the Outer Round. Thanks to everybody who tuned in, everybody who's been in chat, and of course, Joe Montaldo, our producer. And a huge thank you to the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who, again, fully sponsor not just tonight's segment, but all of our segments. So thank you.
Every
On a sadder
single
note,
one.
big RIP to Paul Hellyer, who is a former Canadian defense minister, who is a huge advocate on UFO disclosure. He was disclosing before everyone was disclosing. So he's just passed away. So we'd like to wish or, send our condolences from us here at the Outer Realm, and of course, United Public Radio, to his friends and his family. Now, remember to stop by the International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio YouTube channel, subscribe. While you're there, please head over to the Outer Realm on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. If you'd like to get a message over to us, please go to the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. That's the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Tomorrow night, we welcome back Carl Cookson, Hamilton White, under the new show name, The Lost Relic Hunters. And they'll be back to the show. And of course, you don't want to miss these guys. They're always up to some sort of shenanigans. We don't know what kind of shenanigans we're getting into. But all we know is you don't want to miss the fun. So join us tomorrow evening. Thank you and good night.
People's Choice Podcast Awards voting is up on the 31st of July. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate the following shows: Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in the categories of education and also storyteller drama. The Centralist in the category of politics and news. That's with show host Joe Montaldo. Science and Beyond in the category of science and medicine, also with show host Joe Montaldo. The Outer Realm in the category of society culture with show hosts Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. And the Pittsburgh Paranormal Chasing Prophecy in the category of religion and spirituality. There's another category that opened up for us recently, the People's Choice, so please select for this category as well. Go to podcastawards.com to vote for these 5 shows and any others you enjoy listening to. That's podcastawards.com. And remember, voting ends July 31st, so go ahead and get your votes in.
Sorry about that, guys. That was an old promo. Just so y'all know, Science and Beyond has made it to the final category. Centralist didn't make it. I'm kind of disappointed, but Science and Beyond, there's the only one of the 5 shows that made it. Outer Realm missed out. Writers of the Future missed out. The Centralist missed out. And Chasing Prophecy missed out. Speaking of Chasing Prophecy, they're at a new time now. They are actually on Tuesdays from 8 to 10 in the Delicious Recipe with Dell. Actually moved to Thursdays at 6 p.m. So just a little flip-flop there. A couple of things we're going to get into right away. Right off the bat. So a friend of mine from Britain sends me a news clip. Actually, it wasn't even from Britain. A friend of mine from Britain sent me a news clip. The clip itself was from India. So this lady's doing the news, and she's watching Joe Biden talk about COVID and how many people have shots of COVID in the United States. So he kept saying 350 million, 350 million. He even stopped twice and looked through his notes and still came back and said 350 million. So last I checked, the 2019 or 2020 census puts America at around 330 million, 328 to 335 million Americans. So that means everybody plus a few, I guess that's those illegals he don't want to talk about, got vaccinated. The man's an idiot. It's all I can tell you. More importantly, on the 4 or 5 interviews that are done overseas, they're basically calling us idiots. Not the president, us idiots. So you can go look for yourself. BBC World has done several articles on Joe Biden, which for some reason America won't pick up. None of the news media. The news media here protects Biden immensely. They hated Trump beyond belief, and they protected Biden immensely. I didn't like either one of these guys. Just like I didn't like Hillary and Trump, I didn't like Trump and Biden. So I got to be honest about that. But I got to say, Biden is making Trump look better every day. I mean, first off, the world is like everybody, all the media always say, oh, the world hates Trump. Well, that's not true. Apparently they didn't. They hate Biden. I mean, I can't tell you how many media organizations have now. First off, Putin, every time he's asked about Joe Biden, just laughs. Yeah, he was scared of Trump. He ain't scared of Biden. No, not even all. Neither is Xi Jinping for that matter. He's not scared of Biden either. But Trump scared the crap out of both of them. Putin actually said this on 2 occasions. It's hard to understand Trump. He's not the kind of guy you want to screw around with. because he might just jump the gun, and he might. You didn't know. That's why North Korea left him alone. That's why North Korea quieted down while Trump was president, because Trump, you never know what he might do. I mean, he didn't want to start any wars, but you never know. You know, he was the first president, by the way, in the last 50 years that didn't start a war. I know, and actually ended two. It's kind of strange. But Joe Biden, here he is, you know, he's on national television in his tan suit, no less. That's why I'm wearing pink tonight. He was wearing his tan suit. And he's going on and on about his tan suit. Now, Biden is weird to me. Sometimes I look into the man's eyes and I see life there, you know, intelligence, coherence. And like the other night in the tan suit, his eyes were just a blur, or just, blur is not even a good word. He just wasn't there. And you could tell he was stuttering, he was clabbering, and he kept looking at his notes, and he kept repeating the same mistake when he looked at his notes. He kept saying, 350 million have been vaccinated, 350 million have been vaccinated, 350 million have been vaccinated. No, they haven't. So the reporter from the Indian paper, she's a very intelligent woman. She writes this article up about it. She puts all this stuff up. She did a bunch of Biden's gaffes, which is way more than. Do you know he's got more gaffes in 6 months than Trump had in 4 years? I know, it's ridiculous. And Trump was scary. Okay, let's just be honest about this. And I'm not even trying to compare the two because, you know, it's like apples and oranges. But so the media, and this is the first time in my 58 years of being on this planet that I have heard foreign media say, I feel for you Americans. I have never in my whole entire life ever heard anybody say, I feel for you Americans. It's usually they're jealous or they wish they were us or whatever. Right now, they feel for us. They're scared of what's going on in the world. They're scared about what's going on in the United States. You know, Biden he's just not there. Some days he is, some days he's not. We can't have a president who's not there all the time. And Kamala seems to be scared of her own shadow. I've never seen a vice president that didn't go out and do something. I mean, it took her 5 months to go to the border, and she didn't even go to the border. She went to one of the stations. Yeah, she didn't even actually go to the border. She hasn't done anything. She just stands behind Biden like, okay, I'm here, Mr. Biden. So some of her staff is out of there now. So a couple of her staff members, one says she's completely disorganized and chaos. She tried to get some of her friends together and some of her supporters to say that's not true, but that doesn't help her because they're not in the White House. These people are. And they're saying she is in complete chaos. She doesn't know her butt from a hole in the ground, and she has no business being vice president. Now, two of them actually have come out and said that she has no business being vice president. She was not ready for this job. She did not know what she was getting into. And obviously, you can tell from her performance, she's not ready for this job. Doesn't mean in the future, 5 years, 10 years down the future, she might not be. Currently, right now, she's scared. You can see it in her face. She's scared of what's going on. She don't know how to deal with this. She don't want to be responsible is what the problem is. You know, any action she takes can bite her in the ass or not bite her in the ass, depending on what she did. If she went down there and took care of the border crisis and not let the Lambda and Delta variant get into our country, she'd be a hero right now. She'd be a shoo-in for a president. But she's not. And she hasn't done anything. I mean, it's just scary how little she's done. So I'm listening to who may be the future president of the United States, DeSantis in Florida yesterday. So he pulled all of his people together. By the way, he's suing CNN, NBC, and the White House for telling lies. So he pulled his Miami people in, his Tampa people in, his Jackson people in. These are all the top medical people in his state. So they were comparing COVID numbers now to COVID numbers last year. They're not even close. So only 10% of their hospital beds are taken up by COVID patients, 12% at the bigger hospitals. He said it's been a complete lie. CNN and NBC have just been lying. It's not that kind of disaster. And the death rate is much lower than it was last year. And this has been reported in several states now about the Delta variant, that the death rate is much lower. But if you listen to CNN or NBC, it's much higher. It's a lie. It's a complete lie. They're trying to scare y'all, but you don't have to take their words because now the governors of other states have now come on, going on YouTube, going on the media, and have started correcting all these lies. So I'm watching this report from NBC today about Texas. Texas needs help. Oh, it's all of its hospitals overrun. That's not true. It's Houston Hospital is overrun. It's Dallas Hospital's not. It's Austin Hospital's not. It's all the rest of them are not. It's the one hospital. Yeah, but the problem with Texas is not that they're being overrun by cases. It's just they don't have near enough workers for what they already have. People forget Texas is the second largest state in the union, population-wise, and land mass-wise, and it's quickly catching up to California. I mean, California said 2 million. The census said 5 million is what California last. And you got to wonder because they lost like 5 seats in the House. Altogether, Democrats lost 11 seats in the House. So in 2022, before the elections even start, they've already lost the House. The Senate goes back to being even because they lost a seat in the Senate. These are seats that are automatically going to the GOP because they lost them. They're not no longer in their districts. They're not seats that they can count on anymore. They just don't belong. So that's 11 seats that Democrats lost. So right there, that puts the majority in the Republicans' favor. So if you're a Democrat, you got to be wondering what the hell's going on. Why is everybody leaving New York and leaving California? Well, they're leaving New York because, one, you got a pervert for a governor. Let's just be honest with it. Cobo's a pervert. And then you got a moron for a mayor. De Blasio is just a moron. He's a complete idiot. And if he doesn't think he's not going to get sued over telling people you can't come in the restaurant unless you put your vaccination card out, you're screwed. The NAACP has already started in on this, saying you're discriminating blacks. The Mexicans already started to say you're discriminating against Mexicans. White people, blacks, and Mexicans say you discriminate against our children because they can't come in, because the restaurant owners and business owners said you can't bring your children in because they can't be vaccinated. You can't do that in this country. That is discrimination. It's not allowed in a country, and you can never force anyone to take a vaccination anyway, especially one that has not been approved by the FDA. You can't even do that. What you're asking people to do is put something in their veins that hasn't even been approved by the FDA yet, and it still hasn't been. Now, somebody said one of the Pfizer and Moderna was going to get approval soon. Somebody said it happened yesterday. I still haven't seen it anywhere. It's not any in the news media. I have heard there's going to be a third one coming out, a third shot coming out, but only for people with special needs, people who have all kind of other health issues. Yeah, they're going to have one of those coming out. So that I've heard about. I haven't heard about any of the other ones coming out as far as, we've been approved, because they haven't been. Nobody's approved any of these vaccinations, so they can't tell you they have one. The only group that can get away with this legally is the U.S. military. Because you sign a contract with the military, technically you belong to them for however long you sign up for. You belong to them. They can do whatever the hell they want to. Yeah, it's sad, but they can. That's why when Area 51 got sued, when the people sued Area 51, they didn't get that much money because it's in their contracts that they can get away with this kind of stuff. So here we are. We're in 2021. We're still fighting with COVID. We're fighting with the Delta and the Lambda variants. Now, we heard all over the place that Delta is way more contagious. It was way more deadly. Well, it is way more contagious, but come to find out it's not way more deadly. That was a lie. If you go look at the state numbers of deaths, it's not killing near the people that COVID-19 did. And yes, it is only mostly affecting the unvaccinated. But come to find out, 12% of vaccinated people now have gotten code Delta. So the FDA the CDC don't want to talk about this. The CDC keeps saying, there's not very many breakthrough cases, but that's not true. California, Texas, and Florida have put out their numbers, and it's roughly 12 to 14% of vaccinated people have now come down with COVID. Now, it's a much milder form, and it's not killing them, but they're still getting it. So the CDC is just lying. They want to try to play it down like it's 1 or 2% when it's not, when it's a way larger percentage of people that's getting it, and that's just irritating. So now they want you to take a vaccine that hasn't been approved by the FDA that now looks like it doesn't even cover all the variants out there. So here we are again. I've been vaccinated before anybody asked. I got the Johnson & Johnson. My wife got the Moderna. And so we are vaccinated. Whether it's going to keep us safe or not, we're going to have to wait and see. I'm in a lot of places in a lot of different areas. I'm in a lot of people's homes, a lot of businesses, for what my daytime job is. That's the main reason I got vaccinated. It wasn't as much protecting me because I had already gotten COVID in January before we even knew it was COVID. Quick story. So one of our customers had come home with pneumonia. And that's what they told him at the hospital. He had pneumonia. Well, we didn't know. So we're working in his house doing it. Well, my son got sick first. He didn't even get off out of the recliner chair for 5 days. Now, he's 35. He couldn't even stand up for 5 days. And then he got a little progressively better. Well, when he started getting better, I got it. I stayed in bed for 5 days. And thank God for Subway. I'm giving you a free plug here. Thank God for Subway's broccoli and cheese soup, because that's what kept us all going for like 2 weeks. But then my wife got it after we did. And she was home for 6 days, but she wasn't getting over it. So she went. Her blood pressure had started dropping. So she went in And they put her in the hospital for 11 days. The last 4 days, they weren't even sure she was going to make it because they didn't know what was wrong with her. She was having hallucinations and all kind of weird stuff was going on. And the doctors had no idea what it was. They even seen a shadow on her brain. They didn't know where it came from. And then all of a sudden, as soon as it came on, it went away. They started filling her with stuff, and all of a sudden she was better and she was home and she was out of it. And none of us knew it was COVID at the time. About 3 months after I had gone to see my doctor, she called me and said, I'm pretty sure you had COVID. When you come in next time, I'm going to check you. I came in, I had the antibodies for COVID, so did my wife, so did my son. So we'd all gotten COVID before anybody even knew COVID was around. All three of us survived it. Now my wife is older than I am by about 13 years, so she would have been in one of the high-risk categories, and she survived it. And she kicked it out. So there's been a lot of stuff that's been told to us that's not exactly true. There's been a lot of playing with words, like Fauci. Why aren't we talking about Fauci's emails? Why aren't we talking about the fact that he was paying the Chinese to make these viruses worse, to see how far they could run them up? We know it's true. It's already been leaked. His emails have already been leaked. But for some reason, nobody in our government seems to be interested in this. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to discuss it. And I'm going to tell you why. Currently, right now, this all falls on China. And eventually, we're going to start suing China. Not just us, the whole world is. China's going to find itself in bankruptcy because it should have told everybody in October what was going on in their country, but they waited until January of the following year to tell everybody. And by then, COVID was all over the place. And then more and more people are saying this came from the lab, not from their bats. So it's looking more and more guilty, especially with Fauci's emails. It's looking like it came from this lab. Now, when I heard the group in Europe talking about this, they didn't say it was deliberate. They're not saying China did this deliberately. They said that somebody in the lab had an accident and then left the lab and not thinking about it and spread the COVID around the city to different people. And then, of course, being how effective COVID is, it just took over from there. Right now in Wuhan was shut down just recently. All 11 million people are being tested for the Delta variant because now it's rampant in their country. Well, to answer a question that just came in while we were talking, where did the Delta variant came from? Originally, it came from India. The Lambda variant came from Peru. Now, remember, all of our borders are closed, have been closed for quite some time. So, and anybody that does come in has to be tested and quarantined, except for illegal aliens. So let me understand this correctly. If you're from any of the free world nations or even the communist nations and you have business here, you can't come. And if for some reason they're going to let you come, you've got to prove that you either had been vaccinated or you got to quarantine for 14 days. But for some reason, we have let in almost 1 million illegals, unchecked, unvaccinated, and unloose. Now, we know for a fact now, thanks to several states, that both the Lambda and the Delta were brought into this country by unvaccinated illegal immigrants. This is all on Joe Biden. This is the man who came in and said, this is his words, I'm going to stamp out the COVID and we're going to get it under control and I'm going to show you how to do this, and blah, 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 blah. And here we are, because he didn't secure the borders, we now are dealing with the Delta and Lambda environment that he let loose in our country. Remember, he's the one that said they couldn't stop him or detain him. They had to let him. And worse than that, he's the one putting them in different states around the country. So you can actually follow the breakouts, California, Texas, both big border states, both huge breakouts. But then we found out that places like New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Miami, and Jackson, they were dropping off illegals there anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 at a time, unvaccinated, untested. So a couple of weeks ago, I'm at my doctor's office, right? I went in for, I got a trigeminal nerve that's going bad, so I went in for prescriptions, and my back was killing me, so I wanted to get a referral, get my back checked out. So while I'm there, I'm not kidding y'all, while I'm sitting in the lobby, no less than 400 illegal Hispanics came up while I was there, and they were telling the girl they're illegal. They just got in the country, they'd just been dropped, and they want to get tested because they've been in big crowds. So I was talking to the lady because she's actually wasn't even a nurse; she was a security guard, and they had her testing these people because there were so many coming. So over a 3-day period, this doctor's office tested 2,300. When I talked to them just the other day, over 8,000 illegals had been tested in the city of New Orleans. Okay, one of the highest, Louisiana's got one of the highest spikes anywhere of COVID. She told me at least half tested positive. Half. So that means that Joe Biden is deliberately, intentionally spreading COVID around our nation. He's either too ignorant to realize what he's done. And what gets me even worse is the media is scared to talk about this. Now, this is proven now. we know for a fact, science has proven that the Lambda and the Delta variant came from South America, came with the illegal immigrants. That's how it got in our country. Remember, until recently, we had just about COVID stamped out. And then all of a sudden, we had these big waves of people coming in from South America. We know Brazil took it hard, Peru took it hard, Mexico took it hard, and we're just letting them into our country. So, I understand that we need workforce. Okay, I understand that. But why would you let them? You make everybody else from the free world get tested or get a shot before you let them into our nation. But here you're going to let in over 1 million illegal immigrants with no testing, no shots, no nothing. And then you're going to try to blame another party or something else or another president on the COVID? No, you can't do that. So, like I said, I was listening to DeSantis the other day. So he's talking about all the different hospitals in Florida. He compared this year's spike to last year's spike. Last year was much more deadly. They were killing much more people, even though they didn't get nowhere near the New York numbers that killed people. But this year, they're not near as many people are dying. They're also saying the people that are coming in are mostly between 40 and 60. And what is it? I forgot what it's called. It's myocardial. Oh man. Anyway, if you come in the first 3 or 4 days, they can treat you now. It takes about 3 hours, and within 2 days to 3 days, most of the COVID will be gone out of your body. And this was something that President Trump was touting all over the place, but the media, oh no, it's bad, it's going to kill you. The CDC is going to kill you. Now all of a sudden, we're using it all over our country. No, it's not the pill. Whoever wrote that, no, that's not what it was. This is something else. This is when they extract some of the genes and they turn it into a therapy and they put it back into your body. Yeah, it's working great. Florida's using it all over the place, and they're having excellent success with it. I think Texas is going to be the next one who starts using it. So we now know that this can even be, at least partially cured if you catch it in the first 3 or 4 days. But most people don't realize if you get the flu, within the first 4 days you get the flu, if you can go get Theraflu and it gets rid of the flu like in 2 days. You don't have to suffer for 10 or 11 days with it. Now we've moved that way with COVID, but the media doesn't want you to know this for some reason. You can check everything I'm saying. It's easy to find out. You can go look at all the different articles that were done in Florida. Matter of fact, DeSantis got smart enough that anything that MSNBC and CNN wouldn't put up, he put up on YouTube and other video formats. So you can go look for yourself. You can go listen to the things yourself. So this guy's really putting it on Biden. So Biden's ranting and raving about Florida. So DeSantis is really, he said, I'll tell you what, Mr. Biden, why don't you shut up until you take care of the illegal borders and the contamination you put all across our country. Dems, what is wrong with y'all? I mean, you just gave the GOP the 2020 and the 2024 election because they can prove this now. So you're done. Even if CNN and NBC stays on your side, the rest of the media is not going to do this because it's dangerous for them. They can lose their... See, it's weird how the media works. So MSNBC and CNN can say whatever they want because they're cable news networks. But NBC, CBS, and ABC cannot because they're over-the-air networks. Yeah, so they have to actually pay attention to what they say, and they cannot deliberately lie or deliberately undermine the truth. If they do, they can be held liable. Cable news can say whatever the hell they want. Why do you think Fox and CNN can say whatever the hell they want? Because they can. Oh, Chris, Fox is just as guilty as the rest. They're just on the other side. Yeah, you got CNN. Well, and CNN is done. I don't know anybody watches CNN anymore. As far as I know, their listenership is next to nil. NBC is dropped their rating. Matter of fact, since Trump went out of office, all the major networks except for Fox ratings have dropped through the floor. So for 4 years, they were using Trump as a way to keep their ratings up. Now they don't have Trump anymore. Trump's actually being quiet for a change. And so they don't have that. So their ratings are dropping through the floor. So they're trying to force whatever they can to get to just keep their ratings up. It's not going to work. And since ABC and CBS and CBN have to adhere to national broadcast compliance, they can't just go around saying shit that they can't prove. It's not like Fox and CNN and NBC on the internet. It's a different thing. And most people don't even know that. That's why the news are so different. If you watch the evening news, if you watch CNN, NBC's evening news and then go watch the NBC on the internet where it's just talk show hosts is all it is. It's not real news. It's opinion news. As a matter of fact, I have noticed that Roku, Vision, quite a few of the other TV networks have now listed them as opinion news. They are no longer listed as news anymore. They're listed as opinion news, meaning that it's not real news. It's just a bunch of people's opinions. It's not based on anything but what they want to base it on, whatever bullshit and they want to try to tell you now. So Biden's in trouble now. I mean, his ratings are through the floor. Kamala only had a 2% rating to start off with when she ran for president. That's all the votes she could pull. She has probably about a 0% rating right now, except even Democrats don't like the woman. So I don't even know what's going on. I don't even know why they picked her. Somebody said, well, she's a woman of color. I guess you can kind of say that, but not really. She never had to go through anything like any of my black friends did. She never lived like that. That's not who she is. She's not a black woman for sure. So it's that was another lie. That's all that was. That was another lie trying to betray you on Americans to get it. So now we got other weird stuff going on. So Trump pulled the highest black and highest Hispanic vote ever for a GOP, way up there. And Biden's numbers were way down on blacks and GOPs, but yet somehow he still won. But now we're finding out in Arizona and Michigan and 4 or 5 other states that he may not have actually won these states. It's starting to look more. They found 750,000 screwed up votes in Arizona. Last I checked up north, now even Pittsburgh now is coming out saying there may be some issues with the voting. So now you've got 5 or 6 states that made the difference. 3 of these states are going to go ahead and confirm this in the next 3 or 4 weeks, proving that Biden didn't win those states. If that's true, he's not president. Neither is Trump, by the way. Neither one have got enough votes. So what, you have a new election? They're not going to give up power, and the military is surely not going to get involved, so we're still screwed. My biggest problem here is the Democrats aren't. So I heard Biden yesterday, Trump did $8 trillion, $8 trillion. Obama did $26 trillion. Shut up, Biden. I mean, you should not even go with this. That's just, Biden accumulated more debt than all the presidents before and after him. Yeah, that's how much debt he racked up on our country. And his GDP never got above 1.3. He has Biden running the same thing at 1.3 GDP. Trump's GDP was 3.0, much higher. It had America way back on the track. So, wherever you want to go with this is beyond me. Like I said, I didn't vote for either one of the guys. I didn't feel comfortable voting for Trump, and I definitely didn't feel comfortable voting for Biden. Hillary scared the shit out of me. I ain't even going to lie to you. She just scared me. That's an evil woman. But, like Michael would tell me all the time, she's a sexy evil woman. Everybody thinks Hillary's sexy now. Oh, wait, speaking of Michael, he just popped in. What you doing, Uncle Mickey? Can you hear me?
That evil woman. Who are you talking about, man? Stephanie or Amelia?
No, I was talking about Hillary. Actually, I'll bring you up to speed where I've been. I started out.
Well, the Queen of England.
Oh no, the Queen,
I said she was funny.
I know you think the Queen is sexy, but we're not going to go there. We're just going to leave that one alone. I don't know what kind of fantasy dreams you're having tonight, but I don't need to know about those.
I don't think you wanted.
Yeah, some dreams I don't need to know about. If it was somebody else, I might ask you. But
it includes a lot of Ben Gay and ibuprofen.
Oh yeah, that's definitely stuff I don't need to know about. Who's been gayed, and I just don't need to know
who's been gay.
But let me bring you up to speed real quick.
Come on, man, everyone's gay once in a while.
So I've crossed over. I've been talking a little bit about, Biden did that speech the other day where he said that 350 million Americans have been vaccinated. And wait, you could tell that somebody talking to him in his ear, right? Because he looked down at his notes because he got it wrong. So he looked at his notes twice and came back up both times and said, yes, 350 million Americans have been vaccinated. Now, I checked for myself.
350?
Yeah. I checked for myself. There's only 328 million people in the country.
Right.
So maybe count some of these illegal immigrants, but let's be honest. We know for a fact between two of us, only about 170 million people have been vaccinated. It's kind of funny. So now DeSantis got all of his people together, all of his medical people together from Florida to prove what his actual number. He's suing CNN, NBC, and the White House for lying about his numbers. So he showed what his COVID numbers were last year. He showed what they are this year. He showed what the deaths were last year. So the Delta variant in Texas, California, and Florida are not killing near as many people as it did previous. But that's kind of a misnomer. And I don't want people to get the wrong idea here because this is a very deadly virus. So what's going on here is it's happening. Most of the people getting it in Florida are between 40 and 60. So it's not going to probably kill them anyway. On top of that, the other people, the 12% that are getting are people who have already been vaccinated. It's not killing them either. So, yes, the death rate is going to be lower. Now, they did put out a thing on Lambda today, which cracked me up. So, Michael and I have been talking about this because Michael had warned everybody about Delta 5-6 weeks ago. And he's been telling y'all about Lambda. Chris, don't get confused. Delta's still a deadly virus. It's It's attacking younger people because most of the older population's been vaccinated, so they're kind of safe. And it's attacking younger people, and they're surviving, and they're only going in the hospital. Oh, what's that stuff? That treatment they got? Santos was talking about this other day. So they take out your genes, they put it in, and so no matter what you get, whether it's Lambda, Delta, it doesn't matter what variant of COVID you get. If you get this treatment in the first 4 days, you'll get over COVID in 2 to 3 days. It's a fact proven. Even the CDC hates to talk about this for some reason. So they've proven this now, but it's some kind of treatment that they hated on Trump about, but all of a sudden everybody in the country is using it because it works. I think what they're doing is they're taking like genes from COVID from other people who have gotten over it and mixing it with something else, and they're putting it in, and within 2 days of treatment, actually the treatment only takes 3 hours. That's all it takes.
You mean the antibody treatment?
It's not. No, they called it something else. It started with an M. I thought it was antibody treatment too, but he kept calling it something else. At first, I thought it was that stupid metachlorian drug that Trump was talking about, but that's not what it was. He called it something treatment. So this is what Florida's doing. Florida's always ahead of everybody else. I don't know how they do this. So Florida got smart. So instead of worrying about its emergency rooms, it started setting up all these chairs in all these hospitals and all these other places where you can come in and get the treatment and get over this a lot faster. So Florida's seeing it. Florida's they're predicting that the spike's going to be coming within about a week, maybe a week and a half. So they're going to be looking to go on the downside. California's still spiking. They may have 3 weeks, but even they're looking going now. Who's in trouble is Texas. Now 2 of Texas' major hospitals are being overrun, but the rest of them aren't. And this is another weird thing. So like one of the Houston hospitals. Now people, so y'all know this. There's like 6 hospitals in Houston. Only 1 of them are being overrun. Same thing in Dallas. Only 1 of them being overrun. So the media has got this new thing now that everything is worst case scenario, no matter what. But I'll tell you what the Texas governor did say. He said that they have a big shortage of people working the hospitals. He said it's not the amount of cases we're getting. He said we had this before COVID started. He said we are having a hard time because there's so many people in the state of getting quality people to come to the state and work there. And not just them. I mean, all the states are. But for some reason, this is coming out. This is crazy.
This is a weird thing, right? The original COVID, there's a percentage chance that you would die. Yeah. By the time you got here to the States, it was like 5%. Yeah, then it went down to 3.5%. Then it went all the way down to like 0.5%. So this variant, unfortunately, it doesn't just kill people. In fact, it's not even as deadly. What it does is destroy your organs, your lungs.
They were talking about that.
You get 30-40% lung reduction for the rest of your life. I mean, that's for a kid. Imagine that, man.
And I'm really glad you brought that up because, see, that's one of the things that the Florida governors were talking about, all of his people he had with him. He said, look, y'all are not understanding. He said, this is what this treatment's for. He said, get tested. He said, the day you feel bad, go get tested. If you test positive, come see us. We will get this in here. Because he said the same thing. If you go more than 4 or 5 days with a full-blown Delta variant or Lambda, you are looking for lung problems, heart problems, kidney problems, liver problems. So they're telling you, come get this treatment within the first 5 days, and you can avoid that. If you don't, people, especially ones who ain't been vaccinated, if you don't, you're asking for problems that you're going to be dealing with.
So look at it this way, right? Like if you die, you die. You're in the hospital, you're dead. They put you in a body bag and they push you out the door. If you have COVID, mainly it's a 10-day isolation. If you recover from it, whatever, you most people end up not going to the hospital. Yeah. The ones that do, though, especially now, let's say it goes after your kidneys and you got to go on dialysis and stuff or whatever you need to do to remedy what it does to your organs, that's long-term care. And then you need those people, like you said, those nurses, those doctors, you need those attendants. And then they walked off the job since last year because they were so exhausted and unsupported, and they're boots on the ground. They saw all this stuff firsthand. But now my fear is this COVID is going to hit people, lower their immune systems, and then a more deadlier version is going to come through and be the 1-2 punch. Because Joe, in life, there's always a 1-2 punch. Man. If something, even a hurricane, hits you one way, then it comes and hits you another way.
We're going to talk about that later in the show because they got a lot.
Because they got one beeline.
Well, yeah, but they got the insurance companies put out their thing for last year. So the insurance company said this themselves today. They spent over $10 billion last year, or $100 billion last year on 5 storms along the coast. It's not all the storms. They're just talking about the coast. So they're saying if this happens 2 more years in a row, there is no more insurance coverage.
There's no vaccine for hurricanes, man.
Yeah, they're not, unfortunately. In the old days, there were things they used to try, and for some reason they quit doing it. Like you can super cool the inside of a eye of a hurricane, and it will make it calm down. And they know this, but for some reason they never try to do it.
There'd be an ice storm for Florida. They'd be so
Yeah, we
mad
think
at you.
it'd be that too.
They'd be so mad at you, man.
I know.
20 feet of snow and ice in Florida.
Be like what happened to Texas last year. In poor Texas, they're like Louisiana. You can't give them an ice storm. They don't know what the hell an ice storm is.
They had
what the hell is this?
They had the deep freeze. Then they ended up in 100 degrees.
They have no idea. 100 degrees they can deal with, but the ice storms they just don't. They don't have salt roads. They have nothing to salt the roads with. And Southerners don't get the concept that you don't step on the brake when you get to the stop sign. You step on the brake way back from the stop sign.
Exactly.
And but no, they wait till they get it and just slide right on through.
I have a Jeep with the best silent armor tires, all that stuff, and that thing doesn't stop on a dime, man. Especially if it's like there's all different types of snow. There's the fluffy, crunchy, but then there's that slick, icy snow.
And we get a lot of the ice because we
that
don't
stuff. But the slick stuff gets in between your treads, man, and then the wheels on your car become like a ball of ice. So it's really, and depends on throw off track. That's why I'm moving the hell away from the Northeast, because I'm tired of that.
It's worse than that. I remember way back when I bought a Cadillac a friend of mine had brought down from up north, and I didn't think about the roads being salted. Well, finally one day I climbed under the back. All the back struts were eaten out from the salt. They were just completely gone. I didn't know it was holding a damn trunk up on his car, to be honest with you.
When I moved upstate, I had a Cadillac Fleetwood coupe. How often do you see a two-door Fleetwood? Like almost never, which is why I bought it. Upstate New York killed that car, man. It killed it. It even had an Oldsmobile engine because it had that HT 4100 crappy engine. And the guy before me, that you know what a dog that was. Like people, they screwed people, man. I miss that Cadillac though. I'll tell you, dude. Once your ass knows the feeling of a Cadillac, it remembers forever.
They're nice. Well, the one I had the automatic air ride suspension. It had the little air pump under the hood, and it would adjust the suspension accordingly. That was nice, man. But you'd be doing 100, it'd feel like you're riding on fluffy pillows, man.
That's why I'm gonna be in the desert under the stars in a convertible, man. But I got my Jeep also, which has the sunroofs and all that stuff. Yeah, it's just time to go. That's all. You can tell I'm there.
Yeah, it's time. Well, you're not the only one. We were talking about this earlier in the show. So
I'm very down right now in New York.
You're one of the ones I mentioned. But so far, in the last 3 years, I've had about 40 friends move out of New York. Right now, this year, I've got 14 different friends, 2 former hosts moving out of New York. And you know where they're going? They're going to Florida or they're going to Texas. Yeah. And when I asked them, because they all well, Texas is a big, huge state with a lot of money. But
I'm just saying, maybe Austin, I don't know, but still, the whole state of Texas. Texas is such a crummy. I was born there. It was such a crummy type of. It was very unfriendly when I was there, and
it ain't now. Well, it's different. Texas is a weird place. First off, if you're from the snow states, you probably shouldn't go to Texas. They're going to be rude to you. But if you're from the heartland or the west or even the east, they're going to be as polite as they'll be, just as friendly as can be.
If I move there tomorrow, I can get a license plate that says native son because I was born there. I was only there for 10 days.
Get it don't matter. Get a license plate that's anything but the New York plate. Because I'm going to tell you what, Texas, you're driving around in Texas with a New York plate, you're going to get stopped like every other day.
I was a black market baby, man. They paid big bucks for me. Jokes on them.
Oh, Christopher, no, I'm serious. So I was going to Utah to go give a lecture in Utah, and I the car, and unfortunately it had New York plates. I got stopped 3 times up, 4 times back. And I asked the cop one time, I said, what are you stopping for? I said, no, I'm not. So I'm looking at my GPS. I didn't speed. And I said, you stopped me because I got New York plates, right? And he did. Right when he said that, I flipped open my wallet, which says Louisiana license. And he looked at it, he goes, oh, I'm sorry, man, you good. And every time they seen that Louisiana license, oh, you good, go and get out of here. Because we like cousins, so they didn't care, just go on. But man, because I had that yellow license plate, they were like, you have no business being in Texas. We want to know what you being in. And because I was coming out of Colorado, I was getting stopped.
Yeah.
Oh, man. They want to know.
I was paranoid coming out of Colorado. I was paranoid going in and coming out. You know what? Because cops are looking. They're sitting right there looking at you.
Yeah,
especially if you have New York license plates. That stands out, man. In 1990, when I drove across the country, I was how old was I? 20, 23, something like that. And I had a permanent FU attitude in New York City. You know, I mean, NYPD. Anybody comes around, it's like you just, you know, whatever is whatever. You don't mess. People don't mess with you because I've been messed with enough. Like I've been attacked by cops in protests and things like. So you get to a certain point where you don't want to take anybody's crap anymore. When you leave and you go out there in the world and you got different places, especially, and you look a little different, you gotta chill. You have to chill because it could be a highway in the middle of nowhere with some Alabama state trooper, right up your ass, and whatever they say goes. And that's the shame of it. That people have cameras now, though. They can start recording and all that. But
yeah, and I do all the time. Oh, I just seen this. Somebody just sent me this. CDC urges vaccines during pregnancy. Look, people, I gotta say, I'm saying no. I'm saying no to that. Look, these people don't have no idea what they pumping into our veins. And I got my shot, but I wouldn't.
How do they know how the vaccine affects a fetus?
They don't.
And I mean, being that it's a separate body, a separate human, you know what I mean? I mean,
they have no idea. Their argument is, it'll keep the mother safe. Yeah, well, it'll kill the baby.
All right, so if there's no vaccine for babies, there's no vaccine for children up to 12 years old, why would they do something like that?
Because they're ignorant. They're ignorant. You know what? We're going to backtrack since you're here. So I was talking about Wuhan. All 11 million people got to get tested. Come to find out, some people in Beijing. But anyway, so they locked down Wuhan. They're testing everybody right now because the Delta variant is going crazy over there as well. Well, just recently, the EU put out a report saying they're pretty sure that someone walked out of this lab, probably contaminated, and spread it around Wuhan. They don't think it has anything to do with bats anymore. And when they asked, the guy said, well, it's because it mutates so fast. He said, no, viruses have a tendency to mutate a lot. He said, it's not the fact that it's mutating so much. He said, any virus will do that. He said, it's the way it's mutating. He said, it's the progression of the mutation each time it doubles, where he said, normally you'll see a mutation a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there. He said, you don't see these massive jumps like you're seeing in these mutations. He said, for the few mutations there's been, each one has been a decent sized jump. So, and what I mean is, people, you heard us talking about Delta. Delta is a bad virus. Lambda is a sneaky virus. So your vaccine will stop it, but not nearly as fast or nearly as quick. It has the ability to, how can I say this, to hide itself, or not to hide itself, but disguise itself would be a better way of saying it. So it can trick. So what happens is 50 antibodies may go by before 51 catches it.
You want to know what it does?
Yeah, get it out. Let them know.
This is how slick it is, right?
It's slick.
It covers itself with antibodies, like a Trojan horse. They're calling it like a Trojan horse variant. So it covers itself with antibodies. And it floats right past your white blood cells, right past other antibodies, and then it goes to the cells and starts to replicate. That's amazing, man. Yeah. And then now the lambda is slippery, so the vaccine and all that won't stick to those proteins. It'll just fall off. So that's the scary part, man. It's amazing.
It is. That's what they were saying. They were saying that again today. They were saying, so out of every antibody, it's like, so out of the hundreds of thousands in your body, he said the first couple hundred, it may not even notice it. It might even touch it. And if it does, it's going to slide off. He said eventually one of them will stick.
You want to hear the irony? The irony is, when they're doing antibody therapy, they're looking for people that didn't have the vaccine, who got the variants or whatever, and your immune system pops. Your immune system is supposed to pop to the height of the attacker. Now they're saying the vaccine changes that, but is that good? Is that bad? Is the vaccine stopping people's immune system from popping? But I'm seeing the numbers of the people who are vaccinated who get it. They're not dying, and they're not getting really ill, and they're not really going to the hospital. There's been about 3,800 since the beginning, and mainly Pfizer. Mainly Pfizer. Yeah, and that's what Israel said, my little doctor's group, man, that Pfizer's got about 33% protection, whereas J&J is high and Moderna is high.
Yeah, so, well, Moderna, last I heard with J&J for any of the variants, it's not above about 65%.
About 65%,
yeah,
right.
But people, so it's not that the other 35% are going to die. They're just So half of them will get sick. The other half are going to be asymptomatic. They're going to just be carrying it
But
around.
if you do get sick, you don't really risk the
you're not going to die, basically.
losing your organs or having some myocardial problem with your heart, or you know what I mean. Like I've even seen brain swelling in children. There's encephalitis.
Well, it's funny you brought that up, because when they didn't know about this, when my wife was in the hospital, she was having hallucinations, and then they found a shadow on her brain, and they had no idea what this was, and no one knew about COVID at the time. People, we all thought we had been exposed to pneumonia. That's what the guy's house we were working at. That's what made my son sick, made me sick. We didn't find out till months later that we had COVID. And you know what was weird about this? When I went in and offered, because they tested me and found out for sure that I had COVID and I had antibodies, I said, well, it's only been 3 months. Would you like to take some antibodies? You know, they told me no. I'm still confused by that. I'm not going to say what place it was, but they told me no. I was like, really? I said, so now you can get paid, by the way, people, in case you didn't notice, if you have COVID antibodies and you've not been vaccinated, you can get paid for these now. You can get paid for the ones with antibodies, but they don't pay as much. And Chrissy, I did. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I caught the wrong person. Bethany, there is going to be a third vaccine, a third shot coming out, but it's not for everybody. It's only for people with immune problems.
They're working on a booster, so they're just testing it out now. They tested out a few thousand people in the last several days.
Yeah, it's a matter of fact, it's right in front of me. It says FDA expected to allow third vaccine dose for some Americans, and that's what they mean. You're not all going to get it, because now, and this is another thing that bugged me. So all three of the big guys came out and said these vaccines should be good from anywhere from a year to 18 months. Now, first off, people, the flu vaccine is never good for more than 6 or 7 months. After that, it's done. So why all of a sudden are these vaccines lasting so much longer?
Now, worldwide, these vaccines are also at their expiration date, so they don't know how the effectiveness is past that. You know,
and we're gonna find out now. See that the UK has just said, okay, we're just gonna ride this out, because I guess they got enough vaccinated people and enough of this treatment that they feel that they can beat this out.
Israel's #1 country is vaccinated. Now there's travel advisory not to go there.
Yeah, well, because they got it too. I mean, there's nobody. But you know what's weird? Yeah. You notice you don't hear anything about the Middle East or Russia or China or Venezuela. Even South America now has gotten quiet. Now, we know, Michael, because it's being brought in our country from South America, that shit's all over down there.
Oh, yeah.
So they've now slammed the cases. They haven't found any in Mississippi. They've only found a handful in Texas. Actually, they found 24 in Louisiana, all brought in by illegals. All of them brought in by illegals.
Let me have a breaking news in there. Video reportedly shows nude Hunter Biden saying another laptop with crazy sex acts was stolen from him. So we can look forward to that.
Why isn't this guy not in jail? I mean, if this was anybody else, it was
I think he's my hero at this point.
The guy is something else.
I want to live through Hunter, man. My God, so I can sell my crappy art for tens of thousands of dollars.
So, oh man, I got to tell you about this. So Biden's giving Trump shit about spending $8 trillion, right? In case y'all didn't know this, 5 of that $8 trillion was on COVID. So in his 4 years as president, he only spent $3 trillion, tripled the economy from Obama's 1.3 to 3.6. Brought unemployment to the lowest it's been for blacks and Hispanics ever in the history of the United States, and for whites. But yeah, Biden's going to fault him. I'm thinking, really? So Biden, just in case you didn't know this, Obama spent more money than every president before him and since him. It was 20 or 18 trillion or 19 trillion dollars. Now here you are, Mr. Biden. You've already spent 4 trillion, and you're asking for another 3.5 trillion right now. Dude, I mean, come on. It's like the pot calling the kettle black or something. The dude he's an idiot.
Yeah, he's not right.
He's just an idiot.
He's not in charge of anything, man. I think he probably thinks.
Well, whoever's in charge is an idiot. Don't listen to me now. You're an idiot.
Pelosi.
No, she ain't in charge either. She's another idiot.
Well, they have a bunch of them.
Did you see what she did to Senate and Biden? So Biden thought he was getting his infrastructure, right? Yeah, the Senate. He finally got it through the Senate. They send it to her house. You know what she tells him? Oh, we're not even going to take it up until this $3.5 trillion bid is passed. What? Huh. Well, guess what? You just kicked that one out. Right. So that's a done deal. You ain't getting any of that. And his own people warned him. Half his party saying, if you pass a $4 trillion bill and put the taxes on the people, not only are you losing in 2020, you're losing in 2024. Because he said he's going to run in 2024, in case y'all didn't know that. And I don't know why, because he's going to lose any way it goes. he may go. I thought Obama was going to go down as the worst president in American history, but you know what? It may be this guy. He's trying to prove that he's the guy.
It went from Bush to Obama to this. You know what's funny? They always try to outdo each other with how horrible they are.
It seems like that.
What's up with that?
Well, so they were talking about this the other day. So Angela Merkel was talking about Trump the other day. Yeah. She says, I really feel like I misjudged the guy. I didn't give him enough. She said, because the world finances and military seemed to be much smoother and much more coherent while he was president. She said, I also noticed that countries like Venezuela and North Korea just shut up. Even Putin, because Putin came out. Putin just said this again the other day. He admitted it. He was scared of Trump. He actually admitted this on television in his own country. He said, well, they were asking him about Biden. He kept laughing. And the news lady, who was a European, she goes, well, what about Trump? He said, actually, Trump scared me. He said, starting something with Trump, you knew you were going to end up in a war. And Trump's one of the guys who don't like to lose. So I think he would have done whatever it took to win. So that kind of scared. And Xi Jinping never talked about Trump. He was scared of him.
When you look at leadership, I mean, look at New York. Look at what a disgrace. You got another New York governor, a Democrat governor, stepping down because of their sexual behavior. And
slap that girl in the ass.
Not even including all the dead people that, from the nursing
homes. And by the fact, they're investigating that. Y'all's attorney general said yesterday he's going to investigate that. I guess now that he's gone, they're going to go after him. But
right.
If they sink in, they sunk the next president.
Last one, right? I mean, he was with the hookers, the high price call girls, and didn't want to wear a condom and all that other stuff. These people they're sick though. Do you know what I mean? Like that's beyond normal, like sexual behavior.
BBC America put out a list the other day of how many Democrats versus Republicans that have been called out for being a pedophile. It's like 5-1. What is it with you libtards? Are y'all all just pedophiles? I mean, come on, people, get it.
They all hung out with that Epstein, and he was their pimp. He's dead. They're all protected.
Yeah, he's gone. Nobody can get him, and this woman ain't going to say anything. Matter of fact, you ever notice you hear nothing about his secretary ever?
You called it on Cuomo saying he would step down fairly soon. I mean,
well, he didn't have a choice.
It didn't take long.
He didn't have a choice because once the attorney general said, "Hey, look, we're gonna bring criminal charges," and that girl filed criminal charges on him, he had to. I mean, they were going to go after him. It would be way more embarrassing now. Right now, what he's hoping, this is what he's hoping, ladies and gentlemen, and his brother kind of alluded to this last night. He's hoping he can pay these people off and they'll go away. But New York said they want to impeach him anyway, so he can't run again because they're scared that he'll pay off all these people and then run and become governor again.
Yeah,
and which he might. I mean, he wouldn't be the first guy to pull that off. The one that's cracking me up is Newsom. So Newsom got on TV yesterday saying how great a governor he was, and there's no way he's getting a recall. So the reporter said, "I guess you haven't seen the recent polls." He said, "These are NBC polls, by the way, sir. 57% of people who voted for you said they want to see you removed." He said, "So you're gone." She said, "You might as well step down just like Cuomo did." Actually, there's been several people in California now say, "Look, you should do the right thing and step down. You're not getting reelected. You're not getting in. Move over and let somebody come." But I did hear the Democrats today say they're scared and worried about this because they're scared some crazy progressive might get in. Oh man, New York can't handle a progressive. Could you see de Blasio as governor? Oh my God. We might as well just detach New York and let it float off if that happens. It'll be a whole different country.
One time New York had a Republican.
And they will. They can get another one. I mean, they've had several Republicans have been governor. I mean, we know what's his name. What was crazy one Trump's guy? Oh, what is his name? You know who I'm talking about. He was there when 9/11 happened. What is his name? And he got in all kind of trouble when he went to Ukraine and shit. I can't think of his name.
Carlos Danger.
That could be his side stage name. It's just the Dems seem to get in a lot of trouble. They get out of it a lot of times. A lot of times they don't. And right now, the country's watching too close. This election was too close. So, they re-advised the election. So originally they said Biden won by like 5 million. They re-advised that down to only like 1.3 million. It was close enough. At the time, Trump could have pushed for a runoff if he wouldn't have won as many electoral votes as he won. So, unfortunately, electoral is the way it goes. And I'm for the electoral college, people. I'm not going to lie to y'all about that. I'm for the filibuster and electoral college. I think the Dems learned a valuable lesson when they went from a 60 vote to a 51 vote because the Republicans took a massive advantage over it when Trump was in office, and even when Obama was in office, because it killed him. So the Dems learned that cheating is not always the best way. Getting rid of the filibuster, who, by the way, they used 871 times from Obama's 6th year and through Trump. 871 times they used it, and they want to get rid of it.
Huh.
Ooh, and some lady slapped AOC in the face the other day.
Ooh, cool.
And some place down there, she said,
that's kinky, man.
She said, "You're just a disgusting thing to the Americans." She said, "You shouldn't even be allowed in our country." And then AOC and her.
Did they fight each other? Did they tussle on the ground?
No, it wasn't like that. I don't even think it was a real slap. From the video I seen, it was like it wasn't even a real slap. Besides, if this woman would have went after, she would have took AOC out. AOC would.
She got close enough. That's the important part.
Because she doesn't.
Remember the Pie Guy? The Pie Guy group. I mean, they got Bill Gates and all these other guys. I love watching that footage on YouTube, man. You know, Bill Gates didn't even it didn't even register in his brain what even was happening to him when that pie went in his face, because it's not really something that you would expect necessarily. Like someone hit you with a pie. I just bought some lemon meringue pie, so that's cool.
Oh, and then I heard your girlfriend again today trying to say that the Republicans want to defund the police. Saki, whatever her name is.
Saki. Hillary might run for governor, man. I mean,
I would vote for Hillary for governor, just not as president. She has no business being president because she's as corrupt as can be. But
we'd have the most badass assassin governor in New York, man. It'd be worthwhile staying because she would just knock anybody off that opposed her.
So here goes Biden again. So Biden's on TV yesterday. Hi, I'm Joe Biden. And Democrats don't support defunding the police, but yet in the blue Oklahoma, California, what are they doing? Defunding the police. What do they do in New York? Defund the police. What do they do in Lower California? Defund the police. It's only in the blue states, people. The red states are not defunding the police. Matter of fact, where I live in the deep south, they're actually increasing the police departments.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life to defund the police.
And
you know what? In fact, they need more money because they need more money for better training.
Look, I agree. There's a lot of room for improvement with the police departments. I'm not going to lie about this. Somebody said, well, they disproportionately go after blacks. Well, that's true and not true. Remember how the cops work. They go after groups that are known to create a lot of crime. Well, currently, right now in the United States, 81% of people in jail are black. So yes, they're gonna look at blacks differently than they look at everybody else. They don't even harass Hispanics the way they do blacks because they don't make up a large prison population. They're going after the people who are causing the problems. Which I agree, maybe if they did it a different way, we wouldn't have as many problems. But Louisiana taught the whole country a lesson after Katrina. So the black people population in Louisiana is dropping steadily. And you know why? Because we did away with the ghettos and we built really nice homes and not projects anymore. We found jobs for people. We got them educated. So now it's not so much that the blacks are going to worry about it. The cops don't screw with them anymore. Half the police department down here is black. So, I mean, it's a different state to be in. But the other states, especially the blue states, do not want to follow suit on this. I never understand you blacks when it comes to Democrats. They constantly shit on y'all and you just take it. I just don't get it.
It is, man. It really comes down to family. And with I think a lot of people, if your family's Republican, you tend to lean that way. If your family's Democrat, you tend to lean that way. Also, the geography. People in the cities are usually Democrat, and the Democrats control those areas. But these are the most suffering places on the planet, in the United States, anyway. You've got these horrible ghettos all run by Democrats. Nobody ever gets out of there. Nobody ever gets any help. And then they suffer there. AOC is in charge of part of the Bronx and also part of Queens. There's a lot of poverty there, abject poverty piled on top of itself. What has she done for anybody there since she's been in?
But that's a question. What have the Democrats done? I ask my black friends this all the time. I said, what have they done for you? I said, they're not giving you anything. They're not helping you with anything. I said, they just keep getting your vote. But what have they done? I said, every blue city where blacks live is a shithole. And I said, why do you keep voting? I said, let me get this right. I said, let me understand the logic here. So Lincoln freed the slaves, was a Republican. Jim Crow was brought around by the Democrats. The head of the KKK was a Democrat and still is a Democrat, by the way. Voting restrictions were brought around by the Democrats. Anti-busing or bringing people in were Democrats. So all the way up until the 80s, they were anti-black every way around. And don't not forget this, the current president brought in the strictest laws there ever was when it came to crack and cocaine, and put how many blacks in prison? And Kamala was with him on this. California went with some of the strictest laws on cocaine and crack. Now today we've changed that, and it's in the South we've changed it anyway. So we look at crack differently now. We look at cocaine differently, and we're not putting away brothers in jail for 20 years because they got caught with a crack pipe. Now they're getting rehab, or they're getting sent to one of the drug rehab places. And if you get a third time, you might see 5 or 10 years. Before, it was 25 years for possession of a gram of cocaine. Well, if you had crack, you were definitely going to get 25 years. So, all that's changed, but that was all on the Dems. None of the Republicans ever voted for that. So I'm confused. I still don't know what it is the Democrats gave you to make you want to be up their ass so much, because really they hate you. You don't have to take my word for it. Actions speak louder than words. So just look at the states you live in: New York, California, Chicago.
The Republicans need they need black people. They need Spanish people. They need more women. You need to mix it up for representation. I mean, that's not too strong thing to say. It's known as a party of old white men, and that's
not the truth anymore. So just so y'all know this, the average age of a Democrat in power today is 72. The average age of Republican power today is 53. And technically, the Republicans actually have more women than the Democrats do in the House.
But also in America, there's never been a true black president, and there's never been
Obama is whatever you want to call him.
But he's not black. I mean, he's skin color. He has no ties to African Americans in America. So if you're from the African American community in the United States of America and you came from that direction, you look at Obama. He was a guy in Hawaii. He was a guy who grew up overseas. He introduced himself. Yeah. I mean, his mom is Caucasian. His father was African, but he has no roots to blacks in America. So
just like what's her name? Kamala don't.
But black people in America are incredibly underrepresented, and there could have been a black Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi, got some information on her. She was going to turn her out, and they made Pelosi Speaker of the House. But now you got Kamala Harris, and she's a mixed bag. I mean, do you think that she really is concerned with people in America? And I'm not just black community. I'm talking about everybody. I think that she's kind of. Not. I don't know. You know what? I haven't heard her say anything intelligible from the beginning when it comes to what she wants to fix it about America, or whatever. So, and then
I'm not scared to say anything.
Mumbly Joe, Biden's just up there. That's all I hear when I hear. So I get it, man.
So they were talking about how many women the Republicans and the Democrats have.
Yeah.
And the Democrats have more. But the problem for the Democrats is they have more people like AOC and the Squad. Nobody wants them representing you. I don't even know who's voting for these two. I mean, these are anti-American people. So AOC's in trouble right now because she's endorsing a bunch of cop killers.
They're extremists, and they don't represent the true nature of the United States Constitution. They're supposed to represent the Constitution and the people there under it and with it, which is all of us. And it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter if you're homosexual. It doesn't matter what the hell you are. You're representing everybody equally. Are there groups that are underrepresented? Of course. But then that you work for goals. But here they are. I just heard a guy the other day. We started a conversation and whatever. There's no conversation right now about race. The Democrats got in. I haven't seen one thing, nothing about what they're going to help or solve or anything with anything. They're just happy they got in. It's power. And they resent it because now they have to work. They just can't criticize from the back seat. You know what I mean? And then they have a clear run, basically anyway, where they can get stuff done. But they're not.
You know what party had the first woman in Congress?
Republicans.
Yep, it was Republicans. And way back in 1880, people.
And she was a transvestite.
I don't know about back in 1880. They might have hung her for that.
named Agatha Clinton. I remember that.
Oh, wait, who's the oldest woman in Congress?
I'll ask my girlfriend, the Queen of England. She'll remember from her childhood.
So Louis Slaughter is the oldest woman in Congress at 88. She's a Democrat rep. She died. Well, I guess she ain't the oldest anymore.
You see, but me personally, I don't like any of these politicians, and I go beyond the race and color and all that, because you need that representation, but you need real people. who live real lives, not money people who don't understand what it's like to buy a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk and what that costs, or have to jumble money around between your kids' shoes and things that they need otherwise, or buy food. And there's a lot of people that have food inequality in the United States. A lot of white people, black people, Native Americans. I mean, lots. And you think that, they can just go to a soup kitchen or they can just go to a pantry. Maybe in some places, but most places, no. Remember last year with COVID? How many thousands of people were waiting online out there in the desert in the hot sun in Vegas or like, places like Phoenix to get food, a box of food. That's the face of America people need to see, and we can fix that. We could definitely fix that.
So something that I guess they don't want to talk about. So female governors, the majority of female governors have been in the southern states, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Minnesota, Mississippi, Nevada. Oh, there's one in New York, North Dakota, Pennsylvania. These are all red states, Virginia, West Virginia. So the majority of women governors have been in red states, not in blue. So these are people with real power because the House and the Senate. Then I found this out the other day. So the majority of blacks and women that are in like Senates and House of States, the majority are in the southern states. I didn't know that either. That surprised me when
they
I
got
heard
those
that.
Daisy Dukes on. I know, man.
I don't know what it is.
Remember that TV
I was
show.
surprised. I was surprised to see that. I mean, because
and they all fell apart. Who was that idiot from Louisiana when Katrina hit, and she was like in the helicopter over?
Whatever. Yeah, I can't even remember her name. She was an idiot.
Completely fell apart, and like there was one crane. She was like one little crane. Ooh. My God! Talk about a leader.
And she was an idiot.
Oh, you had Ray Nagin who was shooting dice. There's your Chocolate City leadership shooting dice in a hotel room with his emergency management team. No, completely cut off communication-wise from everybody else. Cops were stealing cars from GM. They were taking Corvettes and trucks and leaving town. They were shooting people, man. Dude, it was mayhem, and nobody ever got held accountable for that. It was like one of those purge events, and people looked the other way, like, oh my God. So, and you're lucky. You don't live there. You're on the other side of that bridge. You're in Mississippi.
Yeah, no one's on time, but Nagin cracked me up.
People don't mess with Mississippi. Have you ever heard anyone messing with Mississippi?
No, because they shoot you down here. They don't care.
That's why we leave it out.
There's too much open territory to bury you alive. And
you know how they say don't mess with Texas? People in Mississippi don't have to say that.
They do like shoot up on people.
It's like New York. If you're from New York, people automatically they assume something about you anyway. But,
well, I know Uncle Nagin's out of jail. He's 65 now. He's only worth $100,000. He was worth $7 million when he went to jail. But he's nobody even hears about him anymore. And last I heard, his wife and the kids divorced him and went to Texas. And the same thing that happened to the coach down here.
He's in jail, isn't he?
No, he's out now. He's out. Yeah, he got 10 years. And I thought he was out.
Remember, he said that it was God. God was angry.
What cracked me up about it. And so he was talking about how much black power he had and how he took care of the brothers and this, that, and other thing. Come to find out, the majority of the big money he was spending was with white people.
There you go.
When the city found out about it, when the regular population of the city found out, they were seriously pissed because they thought all this corruption. They were backing him because they thought all this corruption was going to the brothers. He was giving them free money and giving them. That wasn't what went on. He was dealing with these big business people from other states and just loading them up with money, and they were giving him kickbacks. Like one guy retiled his whole house for him. That's illegal, by the way.
Because he's a sellout, man. That's what these guys do. They want to attain that level of what they think is success, and they want to hobnob with all this scum, And these happen to be wealthy white people for the most part, right? Because again, in the wealth, black people are underrepresented. You've got your rappers, you've got your entertainers, but what about others? That the rich dentist who lives on the block or the doctor who lives down the street. So it's kind of like that, but they're catching up. I mean, America's a work in progress, and when people scream all this race, let me tell you, racism, sexism, all these words are going to mean nothing soon because people overuse them and misuse them.
Yeah. So he was let out of prison. He was also slapped with I guess he can't talk about his what happened.
I want more about that Hunter Biden naked with his crazy sex acts, man.
I know, and no telling what's going on with him. They yeah, he got. I guess he might have got let out because of COVID. No, I think he got let out before then. But it pretty much says he's not allowed to talk about any of the deal he made or anything like that. I guess he sold out some people, Uncle Nagin. I don't know. Here's another article. Yes, Republicans trying to defund police. Anybody who believes that is an absolute. Look, people, if you honestly believe the Republicans are trying to defund police, you're just stupid. That's all I can tell you. There's no way you've ever heard any Republican say they want to defund the police. Everybody you've ever heard talk about defund the police is Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, Biden, old redheaded chick, the governors of all the blue states, because they thought it was popular. I don't know, just something else has been bothering me about the Democrats. So 10 people in a party say something's popular, so they think it is. And then they find out later on when they lose half their people in the election that it wasn't popular at all. Why don't y'all do real polls and find out what is actually popular?
Because they're listening to the crappy media that makes it up as they go along. Look at Chris Cuomo, man.
Yeah, there was an article about him earlier today. I think he's catching flack over his brother. Where was it? I seen it earlier. Oh, January 6th, prosecutors have never seen so much evidence of what? Abundance of January 16 collides with suspects' right to speedy trial.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
You mean the overthrow of the Capitol?
So you know what's happening, right? The guy's lawyer is going to get him off. I meant to tell you that earlier. So they did not carry his right to a speedy trial out, and they kept him in jail without bond. So the judge said, I don't know what y'all doing. I'm releasing him today. He's never had any problems. He's never caused any problems ever in the past. What were you doing? You something about the speedy trial. You didn't do it. So his lawyer is going after him. He said not only is he going after him because they didn't get his right to a speedy trial, which means it's going to be a mistrial, he's suing him for such. So, Nancy can blow shit up her ass all she wants. This is not going to go her way. And this is the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen, talking about this. Abundance of evidence does not matter. He had the right to a speedy trial. He never got it. He never got a bond hearing. He never got a trial. It's been, 7 months since this has happened. Never seen a judge of anything.
What about the ones who burned down police stations all summer, man? What happened to them?
And that's the other thing. They're going after Nancy and them for that. They're saying, because they're not, people forget BLM did this same thing a year ago and actually went into the Capitol. But because Trump was president, we didn't want to talk about it. Yeah, people, this isn't the first group to break into the Capitol. This is the second group that we know of in this timeline. So I don't know what's going on here, but it's looking bad for Nancy and them. And then the Pentagon keeps asking Nancy who ordered the troops into D.C. because they want them to pay for it. They're saying only the president can do that, and Trump did not, and Biden was not president. So they're wanting to know who ordered it in. And from what I understand, it was Nancy. If it's true, she broke the law in a big-time way. That is considered insurrection right there. That's why she's so harped on wanting to get this out and get everybody off of her and get them onto this. Because, she's trying to say this was insurrection. But when she put troops in the Capitol, that was insurrection. That was making sure her guy was getting in no matter what. So I don't know. That's the thing about the Democrats. The more you dig, the more corruption you find. The more you dig, the more corruption you find. Oh, yeah. When you look, if you don't have to believe me, Kirby, look around at the Republican governors in the United States right now. You're going to notice they're all like 50 or under. Santa's a young guy. What's his name? And there's a young guy. The guy here is a young guy. Most of the guys are 50 or under. So these are young guys. These aren't like the Democrats where everybody's 70 or older. Think about it. All you got to do is, if you want to understand the Democratic Party, look at how they went. So until Clinton, everybody they put in was a 70-year-old. And then Clinton was the youngest guy they ever put in. And he did okay. He was in his 50s and he got in his 60s. And then next youngest guy they had was Obama. Okay. And since then, who did they put up? And remember, and they didn't put up any black people till Obama. So then you've got a 70-year-old white woman and a 78-year-old white guy. And that's who they thought was the best candidates to run their party and their country. So two of the most corrupt people in our country is who the Democrats put up. So Nancy found out it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get their voter bill through the Senate. So she said she's going to take it to the people. Well, Nancy, I don't know why 85% of America already told you they want voter IDs. Even Democrats want voter IDs. Only people who cheat don't want voter IDs. And I love the black woman on TV the other day. She cracks me up. So she goes, well, Democrats, what do you think? We're just stupid? We can't get an ID? She said, you do realize you can't drive a car, you can't go to the hospital, you can't go to a doctor, you can't get a prescription, can't cash a check, can't go to the bank. You can't do anything in this country without an ID except for vote. And you think that's right? She said, so what you're trying to tell me is black people are too stupid to go to Nico's and make a copy of their ID and put it in the mail. Is that what you're trying to tell? She was pissed.
Chris Rock was saying that, man.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them out there saying it now. And you can't.
He's like, what do you think black people are? Like, he's like, we can't read and write.
Yeah, no, this isn't 1900. This is 2120. The shit you're crying about happened way back when. This is not how it is anymore. You cannot do anything. Doesn't matter what color you are, green, purple, red, alien, whatever. You can't do anything in this country without ID. Why do you think illegals are so hardcore to get a driver's license? Because you can't do anything without one. You can't do anything. You can't get any kind of benefits from the government without an ID. Nothing. You can't go to the hospital. The first thing the hospital asks you for is your ID. I mean, so what? You just don't have an ID.
You got to show your ID by a Bic lighter, man.
You do. And worse than that, I mean, people, at this point, it's no reason not to have an ID. Like I said, only people who want to cheat don't want IDs. Look, I think you should have an ID with your fingerprint next to it so they know it's you. At this point, because there's too much cheating going on. This last election proved there was a lot of cheating that went on, even though the Democrats at NBC and CNN, oh, no, there's never been any cheating in the election. But every election, we hear, 50,000 people voted for Democrats. Democrats are the only people that people can get the vote still. Look, people, no, I'm not a Republican. I'm actually a centralist. That's why I didn't vote for Trump and I voted for Clinton. I can actually tell you that. I voted for Bush one time. I couldn't vote for him the second time. He left a bad taste in my mouth. But I voted for Clinton.
It's a tuna kind of taste, isn't it?
I tell you what, I voted for Reagan both times. I voted for Daddy Bush one time, and I voted for Clinton 2 times. I can honestly, and when it comes to local elections, I vote whatever my conscience feels.
I voted for Nader. I wasn't going to vote for Bush or Gore, and I thought Ralph Nader would have been awesome, man. And I know it's probably throwing your vote away, but Al Gore blames Nader for losing the election. Really, Al Gore was fundamentally unlikable, and he lost even Tennessee, which is his own state, which is pretty pathetic.
Well, he could have beat. You know what's funny about it? He could have beat Obama, but the hurricane came along and saved his ass. That was a godsend there. The hurricane and Krispy Kreme up there hugging up to him, that carried him over because Obama was trailing by 5 points. Stephanie and I were talking about he was trailing by 5 points coming in to the election, and then here comes Sandy, and Sandy did all kind of damage, and the country watched how Obama handled it, and he won. And he did a good job handling it. I mean, for being a Category 2 hurricane, a little wussy-ass thing. I feel for the North. Guys, I got to tell y'all, up there along the Eastern Coast in New York and all, if a Category 2 did that to y'all, you'd never want to see a Category 5 hit your town. I think
Hurricane Sandy was like 1, wasn't it? But it was very big, and you know what it was? It hooked in. It did something that no other hurricane did, and that's what pushed up all that water. But yeah, and that's also overbuilding on the beaches in New Jersey. They grab that; they want that tax money, right?
Well, and y'all don't have any levee systems of any kind. No drainage systems. I mean, come on! It filled up the subway with water. They didn't have any preparation for that. Now they're supposed to have airtight sealing doors to keep that from happening.
Well, they put these super pumps that pump out like 3 inches per hour and like all.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you don't have anywhere to pump it. See, that's what New Orleans found out the hard way.
Yeah,
we got one of the best pumping systems in the world. But if there ain't nowhere to pump it, what does it really matter?
Pump it to Lake Mead, man. You get Elon Musk with his boring company make an underground tunnel full of pipes. And he ship water to Lake Mead, man, and charge them tons of money.
It's funny you brought that up because Louisiana had cut a deal with New Mexico and Arizona to run because we got an abundance of fresh water here.
Yeah.
So we had cut a deal to run it, but Texas got all pissed off because Texas got, we'll send y'all fresh water. They like, no, you want too much, but Texas wouldn't let us run a pipeline. So Louisiana said, "That's how you want to play this? We'll tank it out there, or we'll run it out through the Gulf, and you can't get anything." So finally, Texas and Louisiana came to some agreement, and it's a cool system. So we pipe it out, and then there's areas where it comes out of the pipe, and they have sand pits, so it's cleaning it as it's going along. So they don't even have to have any extra thing to clean it or anything. It's actually a cool system, and it supplies a lot of fresh water out there. And Texas and Louisiana, and actually Mississippi, could probably supply the whole nation with fresh water. But then, you got Illinois up there with the 5 great mistakes. So, that's all fresh water up there. So that's a lot of fresh water.
They tried running a pipeline from Canada for water down to Lake Mead in that area. They wouldn't let them do it.
Yeah, well, they won't let us pump oil anywhere. Yeah. So I'm still confused by that. So we told the Russians they could make a pipeline to Germany, but none of our country, none of the companies in our country can do a pipeline. Really? So let's talk about this real quick, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're a driver who drives a lot, you're in trouble. So in this $1.5 trillion bill that the Senate's the House waiting to pass, there is a mileage tax for truckers and normal drivers. So people like me and like Mike who like to tour the country, it's going to be expensive now. Because Biden said, well, it'll help keep the roads good and it'll get the congestion down. You're an asshole. We live in America. Everybody crisscrosses the country. That's part of being an American.
They want to keep people down. Country. They don't want people to hit the roads. They want to keep people
that's just not going to float. That's a guaranteed loss of people right there. Yeah. How many people are going to vote? Every truck in the country is going to vote against them now. They're going to be like, because his idea was, well, if they get more modern trucks and electric trucks, it won't matter. Bullshit. You're still going to charge them for mileage.
You're not going to be able to have them. The problem with electric cars and trucks is it
takes too long to charge them, first off.
That number one, but once they're in bad weather, they can't see, and that's it. And, once they have ice and once, you can have all the great sensors in the world. Once the ice cakes up, it's done. You know what I mean? And the roads are like when there's ice and snow and crap kicking up, whatever. Hard enough to see when you're a person, let alone, these things don't have infrared. They don't have all kinds of sophisticated systems that's going to cost $1 million for a vehicle. They're just, cars. So that's their biggest problem right now. Plus, the ones that they're testing in Arizona are running over people and killing them. And that's in good weather.
So I'm reading about this guy. So what's it say? It says Timothy Castro, suspect in January carpet riots. It's been 7 months. It's still dragging on, and the prosecutor has still not brought charges. The government suggested had created a kind of vicious cycle. Hitler inspector cause a storming the Capitol. So the judge got pissed and said, no more of this. He's not allowing any more new evidence at all. He told them no. He said, it's been way too long. He said, you're releasing the guy now on bond. He's getting out, and you're not bringing any more charges against the guy. And he said, as far as it goes, he said he may mistrial this for not doing a speedy trial. He said this is on the prosecutors because they could never get enough evidence to prosecute the guy, so they kept him in jail, which is illegal in this country, completely illegal in this country. And thanks to some of the other news medias like Newsmax and Fox and a few of the other ones, nonstop on this, the judge is like, no more. Judge Trevor Macton reasoned that more evidence generated that needed to be given to the defense, and the evidence that had been turned over is no longer would be taken to resolve this case. Is not taken anymore. He is pissed. The judge is pissed. He said this has been handled poorly. The prosecutors did not do their job. And it says again, he lost patience with the prosecutors. Proceeding judge lost patience with the prosecutors. He basically told prosecutors to go F themselves. So that's why Nancy's trying to get this thing going so she can get it. But they're still saying that no one killed this cop. They're trying to put it on this guy, but he didn't do it. And the video shows he didn't do it. All he did was, you know what they're trying to get him on? He was spraying pepper spray. They said he was spraying pepper spray on the cops on the line that allowed the people to break through. Yeah. I don't think that's a misdemeanor at best. I don't know, guys. That sounds like some bullshit to me. And be held in jail for 7 months for this.
I thought he got clunked in the head or something.
That's what they're saying. They said it wasn't even these people that did it. Most of the people there said it was an accident. He hit up against a wall and knocked it down. So, and then something about some cop beating some guy up there. They were going to bring charges on the cop now. This is not going away. Auntie Nancy wants it to go, but what can you do? I mean, when all you do is make up shit all the time, and The judge wants to know who was in charge of the police department, which, by the way, is the House, and they want to know why they want more people there. They said for Black Lives Matter, you had 4 times as many officers there. The judge even said, directed at Nancy, he said, you knew this was coming and you did nothing, which means you're responsible for this. So, Nancy's just dancing in circles like she always does.
They didn't do nothing. They allowed it to happen. They encouraged it. They wanted those guys to go in there. They let them in there. They opened up the doors and say, hey, go on in. You know what? They did that because they wanted this confrontation.
Of course they did.
Yeah,
here you go.
Say, look what you did. Look what you did. See, whatever.
Here you go. AOC backed group honors multiple convicted cop killers. The movement for Black Lives, which has been touted as a progressive Democrats like New York Rep. Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, has honored multiple convicted cop killers. Look, New Yorkers, if y'all vote this bitch in again, I'm never coming to your state again. I got to come up to get an award this year. I might just have them mail it to me. I mean, really, any people who would vote for someone who backs cop killers shouldn't even be allowed to vote. I mean, remember, this is the woman that's going to get cops fired in your neighborhoods. And like all my black friends tell me, we want the cops there. Without the cops, it would be, wild, wild west again. That's most neighborhoods in the South would turn into the wild, wild west without the cops. Nah, it don't have anything to do with blacks or whites. It's just, criminals versus criminals.
It has to do with crime and poverty.
Yeah. And then every time I hear about Black Lives Matter, and then still they haven't gone after, in case y'all didn't know this, people tell me all the time, well, it's because of Trump, Black Lives Matter. So no, it started under Obama in his first term. I don't know where the hell you've been or how ignorant you are, but Black Lives Matter started under Obama and went on a rampage for 2.5 years.
Yep.
It only did it for 6 months under Trump, and Trump threatened to bring out the National Guard. That's why it stopped. It broke all kind of crumbs. Finally, the 4 leaders of the original one all ended up in jail. And now they're looking at putting the 3 leaders in. One of the guys is a socialist. The girls bought 3 houses in New York at like $3-4 million each, and y'all are touting them as good people. Let me ask you this: to anybody who backs Black Lives Matter, have y'all seen any of this money? Has any black neighborhood seen any money or any help from BLM? Because nobody I know has. I mean, I talked with a lot of people down here, and nobody down here has seen it. And we got a 50% black population. And
just like how Native Americans don't celebrate the money taken in by casinos, it's run by one particular clan, and they keep that money very tight in that group, and they're wealthy people, but they don't share it. Most Native Americans live in horrible trailers and shacks and on reservations. You know how it goes. They
Indians get screwed, and it's something I brought up before. I've said this, and I've said this to my friends because, I do some press work with BLM down here from time to time. And I said, I'm going to tell y'all what. I said, if y'all go after reparations, you're going to lose any support from me and any white people. We're going to all back the Native Americans, which, let's be honest, they were treated far worse than any slaves were, and they're still being treated far worse than anybody in the country right now. And I said, have you been on a reservation lately? With the few exceptions that have casinos and have oil or have uranium, the rest of them are shitholes. I mean, shitholes, and they make a ghetto look like a pleasant place to live.
Yeah, I was just out there, man. Hopi, Res, and also Navajo. It's abject poverty, really, and you see how intimidated Native Americans are when white people are around.
Yeah, they are. So this is one somebody sent me. Fact check,
because they hate us.
They don't hate us actually, but it depends if you got Native American blood.
It depends on who.
So I got Native American blood, so they don't hate me as much. But fact check: Candace Owens falsely claims CDC proposed putting high-risk people in camps during the pandemic. CNN, no, that's true. They did on 2 different occasions. They talked about the most sick people. Maybe they should be isolated from other groups of Americans. They actually did say that. I still kept the clip even that day. So CNN, if you listen, who wrote this? By Holmes LeBrand. I will send you your thing because obviously you did not do your homework or your research. CNN has just become what they remind me of is the Chinese media. They're just propaganda. Pravda is a little different though, because Pravda sometimes will actually
Pravda back in the day.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, back in the day they were ridiculous.
State-run media, right? I mean, that's what it is.
And see, here's NBC. I love this one. How mini Trump is running Florida into the ground amidst COVID deaths. Okay, again, Another lie. That's why he came out. That's why he's suing them over this. There hasn't been that many deaths in Florida, nowhere near what they had. And even if you take the deaths now and the deaths from the last year, they still don't go nowhere near what New York had. So again, MSNBC, you're lying and you're being busted for it. You're mad because this guy is going to blow Biden out of the water. You're mad because the other day he told Biden to shut up until he fixes the border and stop letting people carrying COVID into our country. What's the matter, NBC? Why don't you want to talk about that? See, it's just like I said, it's just propaganda.
You don't
Not
think
a
that
word of truth in this whole thing.
they want people to be at the behest of the government, where they make the rules, the emergency use powers and all this other stuff, right? Look what Cuomo did, man. How many tens of thousands of people died in nursing homes that didn't need to die? And he lied. He lied. I watched his meetings. He lied day after day, saying that these nursing homes could reject sick people. They weren't even allowed to ask if somebody was sick, and they had no particular area even to put them. And there he is every day in his meetings, if you can't take these ill people, you call the health department and we find a place for them. That's bullcrap. And the health department at that time was overrun with COVID. They weren't even answering the phone for these places because they were all panicking.
Oh, here, let me ask you something. So this is from the Washington Post. Now, the Washington Post and Times are two different things, in case y'all know, people. But Democrats are betting that Republicans won't allow the debit to default. Really, Democrats, didn't y'all let it default twice?
Yep.
That I can remember. I wouldn't be worried about that because Republicans are way ahead in the polls right now. Y'all are way behind in the polls. Currently, all the polls show them winning everything in 2022, and it's even forecasting now. Even Vegas is forecasting that they're going to be the next president's going to be a Republican, not a Democrat. So I'm not sure that it'll go with this. And all they're going to say is we're not going to back a $4 trillion spending bill. That's all they're going to say without knowing who's paying for it. Because Joe Biden said it would only be the rich, but the party said that can't work. You're going to have to tax the middle class as well as the rich.
Yeah.
And in case you don't know this, it's illegal to just randomly tax groups because it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, or in between. A tax rate is a tax rate. You can't have special tax rates because somebody has more money than you. That's actually illegal under the Constitution. So, but as we've seen from Biden, he don't care about the Constitution. Now, I'm going to tell you what they're doing down here with the new thing that the CDC put out saying that, oh, well, y'all can't throw people out. Well, the judges are saying, yes, you can, because the CDC does not have the right to do that. It's not in their mandate to do it. Congress has to do it. Biden, you let it run out. This is all on you, Biden. Even your own party saying this is all on you. You let it run out. It's your problem. And these people around other states are getting thrown out because they're saying, hey, I can't have it anymore. Somebody has to pay this rent. And you left the landlords in the dirt, Biden, and you just left them there. So even if they were going to be nice and let people stay, they don't have the money to let them stay anymore because they're going to lose their properties. And the bankers are going to definitely put them out because they have to. When they take over a property, they have to put everybody out. So what are you going to do here, Biden? You stuck your foot up your ass yet again.
There's no money. Those landlords need to pay bills too.
Yeah, they do. They have to pay bills. So the judges down here in the South are like, look, we're not going to do all that. If you need to throw them out so you can get a paying customer there, go ahead. What do you mean did I take? You mean did I not pay? No, I have a mortgage. Oh, no, I don't rent. I pay a mortgage. And no, the mortgage company don't give a shit. They're going to be like, no, pay your bills or we're going to take your house. Yeah, there was no safety for people. Yeah, in case y'all didn't know that, there was no safety net for people who had mortgages. It was only for renters. Oh, yeah, the most you could have hoped for, you could have called the bank and said, hey, I might give you 3 months, and they might. Now, I'm lucky. I have a private lender, and if I needed the time, she would have gave it to me. We were lucky. So, we stayed busy enough to pay our bills, but still. And my note's not that high in my house. It's only $750 a month. So it's not outrageous. Yeah, it's kind of strange. What was this one? House Dem moderates lay out battle lines as Pelosi stands firm. Good, Pelosi. We want you to stand firm. That means your stupid bill isn't going to get passed. We want you to be hard-headed and ignorant like you always are. She got to be the most ignorant person I've ever seen that ever served in Congress. I mean, she's just ignorant. My dog got more common sense than she does. And she's a Chihuahua and she got more common sense.
Guaranteed.
I'm just saying, I mean, it's bad at this point. But if y'all really think, Democrats, that the Republicans won't hang y'all out to dry like y'all did them under Trump. Don't even think they won't. Y'all did it to him under Trump. They'll just feel like they're returning the favor. And it ain't going to matter what the media says, it's still going to fall on Biden. Because all the Republicans are going to say it's bullshit, it's bullshit, it's bullshit. The bill has stuff that we don't need in it. Nobody can pay for it. And they're going to keep telling you we can't afford it, we can't afford it. And when they finally get it all out, get it down to about $1 trillion, it might get passed in.
Right.
Como resigns, shines light on incoming Governor Kathy Hoochie. Her name's Hoochie?
Hoochie.
Hoochol, whatever it is. So I was listening to this. This lady is so happy she almost peed herself. So she's trying to act all refrained and, oh, no, So then she finally says, oh, yeah, I can't wait to be your governor. I'll show you how to do it right. We'll see. So you were the assistant governor, so you know Como was doing this and you let him get away with it. They might come after you, too, Miss Hoochie girl.
That's right.
Then I'm thinking, oh, here we go. Oh, I love Paskey takes aim at DeSantis over Florida ventilator request. What Florida ventilator request? He said yesterday he didn't request any ventilators. So, you're lying yet again. This is the Hill. You're just making shit up. Just like she said, oh, Republicans want to defund the cops. Look, chick, all you've proved yourself is you're just a liar. That's all you've done. Yeah, he was talking about it the other day. They don't need ventilators right now. They're state fine.
I don't get her, and I don't like her. I don't understand why they have her. It's just not doing them any favors.
Booker sees GOP policy defund measure as a gift. They're not trying to defund any cops. I don't know what y'all getting from there. Oh, porn stores. A guy went to jail that runs a porn stores. I didn't know he knew about it. I'm sorry. Did I say porn?
Who's that?
I'm pawn. Sorry, guys. Porn.
Which one was that?
That's a guy from he double ball-headed guy. What's his name?
Rick
Chumley.
Harris?
It just says Chumley pleads guilty, says goodbye to pawn stores. So I guess he's on his way out.
I think it's a fake story, man.
Let's see. Late night hosts react to Andrew Cuomo's resignation. Oh, yeah, why don't y'all go crazy like y'all did over Trump? FDA posed to authorize third vaccine dose for immune-compromised people. Yes, we already talked about that. Oh, now we got to get close. Surprising reason pros. We don't care about that. Joe Manchin and Christian Sherman could push for a big cuts to Democrats' $3.5 trillion spending. Yeah, even the Democrats don't want this. I don't know what they're thinking about here. And none of this is, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you should look at these bills, okay? Like this last one. Most of the shit doesn't go to help us. So out of the $1.5 trillion for the infrastructure, only $400 million or $300 million is actually going to infrastructure. The rest is going to